Truth. Truth.
He's the mirage in the rear view glass.
It's Ray from Dallas.
Let slip past. Was he here? Was he there? Was he ever mine?
Ray from Dallas?
Just a trick played by time.
This dude is savage as fuck.
Or just a dream?
What up, Ray from Dallas?
Ray from Dallas, tell me true.
He's fun.
Hi, Ray.
This appears to be a black man.
Ray from Dallas.
Let's take this walk.
Is he real or just a dream? Falling stars or a laser beam? Ray from Dallas, tell me true. Are you the myth or the man I knew?
This dude is
Savage as fuck.
I'm the champion, feel the rush, the crowd goes wild.
Obviously, obviously, yeah, obviously. Obviously, yeah, obviously. Tell them, obviously, I know these niggas don't want me to win, but I'm sorry, G. I know they thought I wouldn't come back and pose on them hoes, but nigga, it's time to eat. I got a vendetta. Any one of you niggas, I been better. Got them gritting they teeth without gritting at them. Took a second away from the table, it's time to feast. Heard they was mumbling, talking up under their breath. That nigga a hoe, he soft. That nigga lame, that nigga bitch, he puss. I stood on business, that's law. I had them running that boots and tucking they tail and scared to put me on a song. I had them cuffing they bitch and thinking I hit. Shit, boy, what you on? Couple years off, and I'm back in this motherfucker, nigga. Do somebody, then fuck your recognition. You don't like I'm spitting, nigga, better shoot somebody. The game and full of clowns, I don't believe you sucker niggas. Better leave me be okay. Niggas better watch their speech, okay. You better than me, no way, Jose. I could be cutthroat and I'm all out, but I let them get paid for a minute. Let them look gang for a minute, but really they hate cause I never look lame for an image. Never be fake, I'm a realist, I'm solid. I went out and got it, I promise I'm with it. Want me to switch up and get soft on so you can make it, I promise I get it. I know some secrets I never tell, but most of you rap niggas got bitch ways. Quick to tell on you, get jammed down, couldn't sit down 5-6 days. Put him and him in a crossway, but a gang member on display. That's the same nigga with an AK on the block yelling out gunplay. That's the same nigga with a trap house and he been through it so he no pain. Look in the face of a realer. Laws come questioning me, I don't know names. Bitch, I really come from the trenches. Kathleen crashed out like road rage. Bitch, I snapped that and got life in the pen cause most of you niggas got hoe ways. Man. See, most of these niggas got hoe way. A lot of these niggas be out here faking and fucking on these motherfucking tracks, talking that gangster shit. You too young to be done been through something, young nigga. You too young to be done been through something, nigga. Don't tell. You're daily if you do. You're a daisy if you do. But I ain't got shit to prove. Blue dust, gold tooth, little Bruce, smile sharp enough to choose. Bang, bang, right through your cool. Walking like a rumor with a pulse. Lip curl sweeter than your cold. My eyes say try me and you freeze like salt. Got your huggle, got your huggle. You want it, that smoke, I'm the whole damn stack. Got your huggle, got your huggle. Step up, I'll clear the room. You're a daisy if you do, you're a daisy if you do. All aces in my hand, better back. Tongue sharp like a tag, hit a click, clack. You wanted that heat, now it's time to meet the sun. No shade, just black. Walk slow, silver in my lap. Halo crooked heart attack, say your piece, talk that trash. I turn every word to glass. Got your huggle, got your huggle. You wanted that smoke, I'm the whole damn stack. Got your huggle, got your huggle. Step up, I clear the room. Smile sharp enough to do. You're a daisy if you 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 do. shit to prove. Blue dust, gold tooth, Lil Bruce, smile sharp enough to choose. Bang, bang, right through your cool. Walking like a rumor with a pulse. Lip curl sweeter than your cold. My eyes say try me and you freeze like salt. Got your huggle. You wanted that smoke, I'm the whole damn stack. Got your huggle. Step up, I'll clear the room. You're daisy if you do. You're daisy if you do. All aces in my hand, better back. Tongue sharp like a tag, hit a click, clack. You wanted that heat, now it's time to meet the sun. No shade, just black. Walk slow, silver in my lap. Halo, crooked heart attack. Say a piece, talk that trash. I turn every word to glass. Cut deep. Got your huggle. You wanted that smoke, I'm the whole damn stack. Got your huggle. Step up, I clear the room. Smile sharp enough to do. You're daisy if you do.
Daisy, if you do. Hey.
You're daisy if you do.
Man, shout out to everybody out here from that 214 to across the states, to across the pond. You're not rocking with your guy, RFD, aka Ray from Dallas, and beautiful people around the world. Salute. Man, I love you people so much, right? Because y'all show me love, right? And I appreciate that. All the love I get, right? And the love y'all show me is amazing. I'm talking about simply amazing, right? And before we get started, I need to turn y'all up with that gangster lane. Shout out to Melinda Reynolds. Love you to death, baby. And I'm telling y'all, like I said, we're going to get into it, but let me turn y'all up real quick. Man, love you to death. Everybody love you. Jay Cornish, I appreciate you just popping in just to say hi. That means everything, right? Because I know I'll be coming on late and stuff, right? But it be like that because of the schedule, right? You know, and but it ain't gonna always be late nights. But I love late nights, right? Because I know it's a lot of people who be up like me and them's, right? And man, I just appreciate it. I want y'all to know that I appreciate this shit for real. Cause like I said, one thing about it, I don't got that, you got to have that I'm not satisfied, and I'm never satisfied. Man, shout out to Pretty Cookie, man. Man, you ills up late as fuck every night with me. So I like this late shit too, but I just want to be doing shows 2 in the midday. I'm trying to start doing at least 2 or 3, 4 shows a day. Right? And I really am, because if you see right there, I look so debonair, right? In a royal blue suit with the sun, yellow tie with the clear glasses, nice taper fade haircut. You understand me? Right? And that's the definition of someone who wants to learn the full extent of the law. Love you, Helen Keller, Diary. Love, man, great to see your beautiful face. Oh my. All the women are just so gorgeous, right? But it's that guy you looking at right there is a guy who want to know the law to the full extent, right? And I want y'all to know that before we get into it, right? Kouri Richins found guilty. Lawyer, you know, full reaction and analysis. I ain't seen it yet. It's going to be my first time seeing it. I know some people already seen it because lawyer, you know, he is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, right? And guess who? And look, when I say that, y'all see how I'm coming, right? Man, shout out to the beautiful. Come on, don't give me no blunders. No, don't start that shit. Don't start that shit. In this lawsuit, if I don't start blundering, hello, oh, I'm fucking up. Hello, yo, I be blundering and shit, y'all, so please forgive me. Now, am I still blundering? Y'all see that picture right there? That's my pretty kooky, right? And I love it to death. And y'all know my slogan, let's take this walk, all right? Let's take this. Let's take this walk. Shout out to the beautiful me, V, in the building. She said, I will always be here. I'm a late night owl too. Man, salute to y'all and y'all. And I love y'all to death. Look, like I said, that's a guy right there in me, looking debonair with the royal blue suit with the sunray tie, perfect full bird, neat, looking fly as a mother, shut your mouth. And today, right, we're going to break down the powerful and decisive guilty verdict in the case of Kouri Richins and react to what lawyer you know had to say about a jury that clearly had no doubt. A verdict in just 3 hours doesn't just happen by accident, my people. That kind of speed sends a message. The jury didn't struggle, they didn't hesitate, and they didn't see reasonable doubt from there. The evidence they seen presented was enough to convict on every single charge, and they moved with certainty. Oh my, did they? Today, we're going to break down what that really means, because when a jury comes back that fast with a guilty on all counts, it suggests they were convinced by the prosecution's timeline and narrative, right? The motive, the opportunity, and evidence all connected clearly in their minds. What we've seen of this guilty verdict of 5 counts, right? The defense failed to create enough doubt to slow deliberations down. 3 hours. And most importantly, they believe justice required the juries a decisive outcome. Right? We also, like I said, going to react to lawyer you know perspective on how juries think, how they process, and why sometimes a quick verdict isn't rushed, it's confidence. Ooh. Man. Man. It was decisive, right? And I was up like all night just watching different stuff, right? Trying to figure out the reason and why you seen professionals like Moez tell me, right? She's a professional lawyer. She told me she was guilty and she was right. And I talked to her today and we had a conversation, but I did a lot of research too, right? To go see other professionals, right? Who seen her guilty with no reasonable doubt, right? And if you trying to learn the law, right, like I am, to the fullest extent on what you really got to look at and how you got to look at it, then you got to be willing, after a case is over with, to go look and see why it was no doubt in 3 hours them juries were convinced with certainty, right, that Kouri Richins was guilty on all accounts. Oh my. I was texting and talking to Mary B and Mo, right? Telling them like, you know, because Mo was telling me, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, she was telling me, right? But the thing is, I didn't listen. It ain't no I didn't listen to why I wasn't hearing what she was saying, right? I'm thinking, because I know I'm not better than her at doing this, but I'm thinking what I'm seeing is just clear cut, no debating, right? And that's honest. I'm being honest. Because I'm being honest with y'all, when I first was talking about this case with Mo and Mary B, they said guilty. Not convinced. I'm guilty. You didn't hear no crack in their voice. They said guilty, right? And with me, I think I was, when I get on this podcast and start doing my thing, like I be extra with it, trying to, of what I'm seeing, and I really believe that. And I say it with conviction. Ladies, okay, Mo says she thinks she did. Okay, all right. She thinks she did say that. She thinks she's guilty. That's what she said, right? She said she thinks she's guilty. And that's what Mary B said. They said they think she's guilty, right? So I got to give credit what credit is due, not only to them for having the eye of the tiger, but everybody else, right, who had the eye of the tiger to show that it was no doubt that they believed in their mind that Kouri Richins was guilty. And guess what? You amazing people were right to the T. Because we seen all 5 counts. They convicted her, right? And I was really mind-boggled with myself, not only last night, because I stayed up just watching everything. I was watching a bunch of shit. people who I didn't even know, right? Just watching them. Kouri Richins, I want to watch him, right? I was just mind-boggled to myself, right? After watching Lawyer, you know, with everybody last night, right? Even with Mo, right? But seeing how, you know, he pinpointed things in that in the direct, you know, closing from the prosecution on how they nailed it, right? So, I really have to go back and look at that. Not only that, just think about everything. I'm be honest with y'all, right? This is some real shit. That Karen Reed case got the best of me, right? The best of my decision making because of the horrible investigation and how these cases ain't the same, but the investigation was horrible, horrific, right? Or at least that's what I thought, right? But even though we can't say the investigator, you know, he didn't do that good on the stand. But that don't mean that the investigation didn't pinpoint to circumstantial evidence, right? And I hate this. I hate to say it. It ain't about being wrong or right. Everybody know I was wrong. I stood on my conviction that Kouri was innocent. I stood on it. But after really just understanding how they came to their decision, right? It opened my eyes up to where now I said the misjudgment was a failure of me thinking that the terrible investigation was going to automatically pull up a not guilty order. The witness who lied, Corman, you know, who lied to the judge to go get some peanuts from a bar. I thought that was a lot, but that means nothing. Sometimes it do, but in this case, it meant nothing, right? Because I think I was watching some show today, Surviving the Survivor. I think that was the show. And I heard them on there say it, right? That Corman had the best testimony. And I was shook. I was shook hearing them saying that, right? Because I'm devastated on how, you know, how she was lying and doing that. But it wasn't all about her lying. It was about the timeline and how it all connected, right? And I say, damn. And then it's normal, like the judges will tell you in the case, you got the right to become biased, right? When you see a certain way. But the thing about me was, and I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I totally disregarded the circumstantial evidence, the means, the motive, and the opportunity. I totally looked past that. Like it was nothing to look at, because I looked at that investigator and Detective Driscoll, and I seen Corman, and I seen the Kouri Richins, his stuff. I seen other people on there lie. But that has nothing to do with the circumstantial evidence, right? And there's a lot that I didn't see too, right? That one clip possibly could have changed my mind in the way I looked at this case. I never seen that clip until the prosecutor played it in his rebuttal to their closing argument on March 5th, the day after her husband died, right? She in there laughing and having a toast. I said, oh my God. And then the 6-minute call, y'all, with the police, the operator. Oh, we. So, like I said, it was a lesson for me, right? And I appreciate, that, right? Because if I didn't get to see and understand that and have so much conviction, right? Yeah. Yep, you was. You was. You would. If I didn't have so much conviction, and just like Melinda said, my heart, because I was looking at a woman with 3 kids, like, it wasn't that she wasn't guilty, it's just that I wasn't looking at the circumstantial evidence. I totally disregarded that job. I did. Not totally disregarded it, but with as much reasonable doubt, I just felt like it meant nothing until I heard that call in the closing argument, until I seen her laughing, right? Right? Like, March the 5th, you having a toast and you sitting on the counter laughing. Oh my, then I remembered as soon as that moment when her mother said that she was distraught for at least 2 months. Well, the day after, I seen her laughing and giggling. But the point of that is, it was a lesson, and I'm glad, right? Because I really enjoyed covering that case, right? And that ain't gonna do nothing but make me look at stuff better now, especially with this case that's coming up that I'm doing my research on now. So when I present it, I'm a understand it to the fullest of the degree. Man, I love you people on here, boy. Man, because, bro, listen, everybody was on her like, people who thought she good, I respect you, but, bro, she guilty. I had Andrew, shout out to him. I don't know who he is, but Andrew was the name of the dude who posted on my post. He said, man, what type of fucking shit in your Kool-Aid you drinking? She's guilty as shit. This was before. And even when Melinda had the pot to tell her that she was right. It ain't, no, it's just that it was right. I was wrong. And I respect that shit. I respect that. But everything is a lesson to learn and get better. Even with Mo, she was right. I mean, of course, she ain't no juror, but she is a lawyer. And she told me she thinks she's guilty. Just like Mary B. told me she thinks she's guilty. And, my conviction, I think it kind of swayed him a little bit. And I apologize because So convinced. So convinced. So now Jordan asked me, shout out to Bev in the building. Love you, sweetheart, and thank you for that. Jordan said, do I think they proved their case? Oh, first I'll get to that. Helen said that one woman who testified literally swore that she never spoke to anyone other than an officer. In the next sentence listed like 5 people, then went back on her statement. Yeah. But let me answer that question for Jordan now, right? Do I think the government, looking at it now, Jordan? Absolutely. After watching this shit all day, and I'm so ready, we're gonna get into the lawyer you know now. But after watching this stuff all day and watching people giving their perspective on it, right? I'm also was watching these 2 ladies, and it was, I forgot her name, but she had a judge on there, blonde, her judge, and man, it was good. And they was talking about, the parenting, because I remember on one case where this dude was innocent, but they said he killed his wife. His son still had to come visit him every 6 months. And they was on there talking about, will she still have her parenting rights? And that was pretty interesting. I ain't gonna lie. Man, this law shit fun. Like real talk, it's fun. I know it's excruciating for lawyers, right? But it's fun. It's shit. When you, I see the light. I see the light. Oh, thank God Almighty, I see the light. Right? Yeah. I didn't either. But like I said, the people, like who I respect, they was telling me they was guilty. Like all Mo, Mary, lawyer, right? If I'm looking at it, do I see reasonable doubt? Yeah, I seen that, but I just let my basement get judged after reasonable doubt instead of looking at all the circumstantial evidence, because this was hard that the prosecutor hit him with, right? She said when she gave him the sandwich, that's the day she went and seen the other dude, and she was so far away, when they called him, she'll be out of Utah County or something, they said. But yeah, I hope I don't have no blunders. I hope I don't. If I do, please forgive me. Y'all know I'm going to fix it. But please forgive me if I do. Please don't mess up. Please don't mess up. Okay, look. Got him on the screen. Now, this is going to be the big thing right here. Getting over here. Press and play. And seeing how it comes.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the episode of The Lawyer You Know. And today we are going to react to the verdict in Kouri Richins' trial. We're going to listen to that verdict together on all counts. We'll talk about what went right and what went wrong for each side, why we think the jury voted as quickly as they did. Is there an issue with how quickly they voted? What do you guys think? Were you surprised at how quickly they voted? Were you surprised with the verdict? And then, of course, I'm going to answer all the questions you have about this case, and we'll talk about what trial is coming next. So hit that like button, and let's get to it.
Yep, Jordan, yep.
All right, we are going to jump right into court with one of our favorite judges and listen to the instructions that he gives, which I found to be very, very good. And other judges that have high-profile cases, I think they should take a note out of this judge's book with exactly how you announce it, exactly how you control the courtroom, give everybody the opportunity to leave if you want to leave, because when we read the verdict, it is what it is, and you better not have an outburst. So make sure you control yourself. If you feel like you're not going to be able to control yourself, because there's only 2 options here. So if you feel like you're not going to be able to control yourself, now is the time to leave. 1.
there can be no outward reactions whatsoever to the verdict. These folks are here against their will. They, all the lawyers, Ms. Richins, every attendee, my court staff, the bailiffs, everybody deserves your respect. There simply cannot be any outward reactions. You have to keep your hands folded in your lap. If you feel overcome with emotion, just look down. We cannot have any outward reaction. Second, once the verdict is read and the jury is discharged, you need to stay seated and follow the deputy's instructions about how we will leave the courtroom in an orderly fashion. If anybody in here can't follow these instructions, this is your chance to leave. All right. Fair warning, counsel, Ms. Richins. It is my practice to ask all the lawyers and the defendant to stand in respect for the jury as I read the verdict. I just don't want you to be surprised. Okay. Mr. Bloodworth, are we ready for the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Lewis.
We are.
All right.
Everybody, please hit that like, share, and subscribe if you got the social media. Pretty please.
Nothing more heart pounding than these moments in the courtroom, by the way. When you're
The don't pull a Donna Addison instruction. Ha ha ha. Now look, just be real honest. If I was her at that moment and I seen the judge saying that, I'd be like, ooh. But then if I was the family, I'd be like, ooh, too, because like, what you mean? No, I know. But you can't do that, though. Judge say, well, leave my courtroom. That's kind of harsh, though. But I know it's the law. It's harsh, though.
standing, waiting for the jury to come in, and then standing and waiting for their verdict to be read.
Breaking news, a verdict 3 hours is.
May I ask you a yes or no question? Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict? Would you please hand the verdict form to the deputy, and you can have a seat. Thank you. All right. Counsel, Ms. Richins, please stand. Count 1, aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of aggravated murder. We, the jury.
All along, the biggest charge, most important charge, what they really, really needed, nothing else mattered quite as much. Somebody could help them argue this charge. They get a guilty verdict. Once you hear that, it's a load off your shoulders. The pressure is all off. You can take a deep breath as the state. And research will always show, no matter what we talk about on here, as far as literally the worst evidence I've ever heard for an attempted murder charge ever was in this case. Once they convict here, the chances of it just being, you talk about like riding on the coattails or people, voting all the way down in the same party, regardless of who the person is. Once it's guilty on that, usually they're going to believe she is the type of person to do something like that, commit that crime for count 1. So she probably did everything else, and it's almost always going to be guilty across the board once you hear guilty on that first count.
Unanimously.
See, now that's something I'm learning, right? Oh my. And you heard him, he said it was atrocious on this second degree, whatever that was, that they charged her with no evidence. But if they get it on that first one, automatic all the way down. Oh my.
Agree that the prosecution has proved the following circumstance or circumstances regarding count 1 beyond a reasonable doubt. The homicide was committed for pecuniary gain, and the homicide was committed by means of the administration of any substance administered, any lethal amount, dosage, or quantity. Count 2, attempted aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of attempted aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously agree the prosecution has proved the following circumstance or circumstances regarding count 2 beyond a reasonable doubt. The attempted homicide was committed for pecuniary gain. Count 3, insurance fraud. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of insurance fraud. Count 4, insurance fraud. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of insurance fraud. Count 5, forgery. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of forgery. It's signed by the foreperson. Please have a seat. Madam Foreperson, is this the verdict that the jury reached unanimously?
Yes, it is.
Okay, you may have a seat. Ms. Lewis, Ms. Nestor, do you wish the jury to be polled?
Yes, please.
All right. Folks, I'll ask you the same yes or.
All right, so they poll the jury. I did want to hear his instruction to them at the end. I don't know how long he takes to poll the jury. Let's see.
system of justice relies on your time and your sound judgment, and you have been generous with both. You serve justice through a fair and impartial decision. All of my previous admonitions are now over. You may speak about this case with anyone or with no one at all. It is entirely up to you. You might be contacted in the future by the press or by the lawyers. You do not have to talk with them or with anyone else, but you may if you would like. The choice is yours entirely. I'm now turning to the attorneys and instructing them to honor your wishes as officers of the court if you indicate that you do not want to talk about this case. If you do talk about the case, please respect the privacy of your fellow jurors. The confidences they may have shared with you during deliberation are not yours to share with others. Thank you, all of you, for your service. Please rise for the jury.
Whew.
All right, I'm going to run an ad from our sponsor, then we'll get into all of your questions because I know people have some thoughts. When you find a platform or company that is just simply better than every single other one out there, you can't help but use it. And that's exactly how I feel about today's sponsor, Shopify. I've been using them for years for our e-commerce website where we have all the Lawyer You Know merch. We've got the newsletter sign up. They make the process so easy, not just for me, but also for you, the consumer, the person shopping on that website, dealing with buys and returns and any issues. They handle in an incredibly expeditious and professional manner. Shopify truly is above and beyond all their competitors. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, and 10% of all e-commerce in the United States from huge brands to brands just getting started. You can accelerate your efficiency whether you're uploading new products or trying to improve existing. Shopify can package, help AI tools, write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. So start your business today with the industry's best business partner. Shopify. Start hearing. Sign up for your $1 per month trial to shopify.com/LYK. So go to shopify.com/LYK. One more time, that's shopify.com/LYK. So the jury comes back in less than 3 hours with guilty verdicts across the board. When we kind of talked throughout this case, and even when I broke down the closing arguments, it wasn't a lie, so I didn't get all of your opinions on it, which is the way I prefer to do it. But because I've been out of town, it's been a little bit more difficult with my schedule. I'm glad all you guys could come and hang out this last minute live, by the way. So I appreciate you doing that because we didn't have a lot of run times. I've been doing stuff all morning, and then we're doing stuff tonight. So this is kind of the only time I had. But from my perspective, it was not at all surprising this was a guilty verdict, right? From day one, we thought it was going to be a guilty verdict. We knew they were going to have evidence that, the generally bad gal rule was going to apply to Kouri Richins. They were going to hate her guts. Maybe we just didn't realize to what extent, or usually, in my opinion, where the biggest failure of this defense team was. And if you were going to guess, I was going to tell you to guess in the comment or in the live chat what you think I am going to say the biggest failure of this defense team was. To me, it absolutely comes down to jury selection. The jurors you selected, or the jurors you failed to eliminate, that did not consider X, Y, and Z, whatever your arguments were, the burden of proof, beyond a reasonable doubt, whatever it is. That's the biggest failure when it comes to the timing of the verdict. Because the verdict is what it is, right? And there was enough evidence to convict her beyond a reasonable doubt for these jurors. I don't think it would have changed if you would have put the alternates in. This was one of the least surprising verdicts that we've had in almost any case that we've covered.
Oh my. See, I ain't watched this, right? He said the biggest failure of the defense in this case was picking the jury. Oh my. Damn. Well, how do you pick the right jury then? Mr. Peter, Mr. Lawyer, how do you do that? Okay, so look, I get it. Voir dire. Okay, so look, let me ask you this, Moisk. Let me ask you this, let me ask all the ladies. Do y'all think they picked more male jurors because she was a pretty white woman and they thought, like whoop-de-whoop? Is that reasons why they'll do it? Right? Because look, I want to go on the Casey Anthony shit, right? How did she get away with that? The business big. Oh, we know Jimmy love Peter, man. Now, look, do you think that was their biggest mistake? They thought that they convinced them 6 men? Oh, you don't? So how do you, so it take both sides to pick them or just do the defense pick them? I mean, I'm trying to see. It's the defense, right? Man. And when you think about it now, hearing him saying that, oh, they both pick him, okay. Yeah, that Casey Anthony case. And look, I really was looking at that today. Who was that? Her attorney, Mr. Bezos or something? Because see, I was watching a documentary on the lady who was in there with her. It was just like an hour. Today, I was watching because I was so shocked. And there was what you call a correction officer who got fired because she used to let them talk to each other. You have to try to ask the right questions. Damn, Mo. Oh, that's a tough job. Oh my God, I salute all the lawyers out here. Like, God damn. Let's continue with Peter. Man.
And I had people texting me like, oh man, maybe it's gonna be a hung jury, or man, I'm really worried about X, Y, or Z. I said, listen, I think they're making really good arguments. I think that there are.
You get a certain, shout out to the beautiful Melinda. She said, Bo, she said you get a certain amount of challenges to dismiss. Man. Can you how quick can you tell, or can you tell it all if you got a badge, if somebody not going your way? Shout out to Dorena. I hope they can, Dorena. I just don't know. Like even when I was watching the Ghost show tonight, you know, he said this is the best chance to win, right? Because trying to appeal something you got convicted on, like they got to have some hell of a shit, right? Damn. I feel bad, man, because let's just keep going with Peter.
Certain points the defense is bringing up that are good points, but their delivery is just so bad, and the way that they do it, their presentation is so bad, and their client, the people are going to hate their client. When you're willing to screw your best friend for money for a house, when you're willing to lie to your husband, when you're leaving your kids at home and there are text messages that you're out with the girls and husband's always with the kids, just all this.
Ooh, wait. That was another point. Look at Peter. Look how he coming, cuz. Oh, look how Peter coming. Boy, that's some real shit he said. When you steal money from your best fucking friend. Oh, wait. Man. They first started out with each juror summoned with a questionnaire. Cool.
Everything around Kouri Richins was negative. Everything around Kouri Richins was bad.
Melinda, you a lawyer? And Mevi say also picking the jury was virtual. It was like a Zoom. You was the one who told me that. That's what I was gonna say. A Zoom. How could you pick? Oh, wait. Now that should go up to a panel. That should be the shit that go up to a panel. Zoom. Zoom. Oh, they start weeding out from that then in person, okay. But Zoom, oh, they changed it from a capital offense to avoid having 12 jurors. 8 is manageable. Ooh. And what Mevi said, she said, people in the courtroom said Kouri was, I don't remember. I don't know. I don't know, Mevi. Man, but he, like, y'all, that's some hell of a, she stole money from her best friend. They gave her the life savings, and Alan Jackson, I just looked the other way on that. I'm sorry, y'all. I did.
We're going to hate their guts, but not quite to this level. And they were so quick to go through this verdict form and believe that she was guilty of all the things.
Oh, you went to court reporting, so Miss Melinda Reynolds. Oh, I'm so happy to have you here. And I appreciate you being here. And look, I got to give Melinda her credit. Right. Because Melinda was trying to tell me. She said, oh, Ray. Even though she told me I had a big heart tonight, she was, oh, you just have a big heart, Ray. Damn. She was right. I got to give her credit. She said that this is, I got to give her credit. She said, oh, okay, Mo, yes, I love you to death. I know you got a big, we know how you coming, cuz, man, and I appreciate you just coming in, but you know, I know you got that media. You be working big time. We know how you coming. Let's continue with Peter, y'all.
Said that she did. So I want to put a poll
death,
for the timing of the verdict. Was it shorter than you expected, longer than you expected, or about what you expected? John, will you go ahead and throw that poll up? So from my perspective, when it comes to how long the jury took to deliberate in this case, do I wish they would have deliberated longer?
Okay, now listen. Since I've been talking to him, right? Been listening to him, I'm starting to wonder who the fuck John is. Have John ever showed himself? If y'all watching The Lawyer, you know, because he always say, John, pull this up, John. Have we ever seen John? And Dorina said, because the judge specifically said the testimony was about context, not allowed view as 100% truth. Chelsea, that was her impression. Yeah, that's true. Like I said, I seen a lot of reasonable doubt, but there was circumstantial evidence there too. But I agree with you, what you're saying.
Or do I wish X, Y, and Z? Sure, whatever. But what I think, it wasn't 5 minutes. It was 3 hours. And I believe that that can absolutely be enough time to discuss the issues in this case.
Oh, my God. Now see, look at this. He just told me, which I was appalled by, right? And this is a lawyer, him and his pops, Big George. We know Big George, former U.S. District Assistant Attorney. And we know Peter got schooled by the best and his dad, Big George. And now he telling me, y'all, a dude who was an attorney, who him and his dad run a company, or he probably the leader of the company, he telling me that was enough time. And I was appalled hearing that yesterday. And Dorina said the fact that the closing argument called it into effect is another offense. Yeah, I know Peter called some stuff out, you know, that the judge, like the illicit thing. George said, I think they took a vote. They all thought guilty, then fucked up. 2 hours to have us think through. Yeah, no, that's true. And they tell you to use your common sense in her too. That's true. But damn, I ain't watched this. Peter said 3 hours is more than enough time. In this type of case, I would have never thought that.
I'm someone who usually trusts jurors and juries. And I think that this jury had enough evidence before them that it probably came down to a couple of simple facts. One, do I believe Carmen Laura? Do I think that she's not credible, or do I think she is credible? And if I think she's credible, and I believe Kouri Richins asked for fentanyl and bought it right before Eric Richins died of a fentanyl overdose, I don't think it's that difficult of a verdict to come to. And when it comes to Robbie, did I find him to be credible? Did I think the first testimony he gave was credible, or the second testimony he gave was credible? Because if you found the drug deals to be credible, then I understand how maybe it was pretty quick to think that, yes, she did this. And then if you think she did this, any jury, it is so hard for you to put yourself in the shoes of a jury. If you believe she committed aggravated murder, to think you're really going to say not guilty to attempted murder, you should. And you should think about that. And was there enough evidence? And you should think about that with the forgery. But it almost comes down to an exercise of futility would be the wrong. It almost comes down to an academic discussion at that point. And will they actually have that? Will they actually have that discussion and make the legally appropriate decision? In my opinion, the evidence was woefully short for some of the other charges. But when it came to the aggravated murder count 1, it all depended on the credibility and how you looked at the witnesses. Same thing with the walk the dog letter. A lot of people said that wasn't important to them. To me, that was the thing that made her look the worst, based on what she had already said and other statements that she had made. I don't know how you look at that walk the dog letter as anything other than asking somebody to lie for you in trial. If you're willing to do that, why would you do that? Only guilty. And will they actually have that? Will they actually have that discussion and make the legally appropriate decision? In my opinion, the evidence was woefully short for some of the other charges. But when it came to the aggravated murder count 1, it all depended on the credibility and how you looked at the witnesses.
I hope you're right.
A lot of people said that wasn't important to them. To me, that was the thing that made her look the worst, based on what she had already said and other statements that she had made. I don't know how you look at that walk the dog letter as anything other than asking somebody to lie for you in trial. And if you're willing to do that, why would you do that? Only guilty people do that, is what most people think. I again, talked about it with my dad. We've absolutely had innocent people tell us, I'll do whatever it takes. You tell me what I need to do and I'll get somebody to come say that, whatever. And we're like, whoa, you can't do that. But innocent people do that too. But I think as far as jurors are looking at this, they think she's guilty. They hear that walk the dog letter and it's like the final nail in her coffin. That's really what I think. And that's why throughout this whole trial, I was saying, man, I thought it was going to be easier for the state. In my mind, the way I looked at the evidence, it ended up not being so easy. But I think that the way the jurors looked at it, their job was to weigh the credibility of the evidence and then did that evidence rise to the level of beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think they did that. And I don't think you needed to take 3 days to do that. I think there were just a couple questions that the jury had to answer in their own minds as far as credibility goes and looking at those elements. And I think a jury absolutely could do that in 3 hours. I don't think like your average jury, where I think if we had 100 juries, this would have probably been on the shorter end. But I can't say that just because it was 3 hours, the juries didn't do their job. Jurors didn't consider things. Jurors were horrible. They didn't consider the case. They didn't understand the elements. They didn't understand their job. I can't say that because it was only 3 hours. Now, if it was 15 minutes, I think I would say that. I don't like to say that. That's not my default to say that. But if it was 15 minutes, I'd have a hard time not saying that, to be honest. All right, let's get to your questions. And hey, bring them on, right? You don't have to hold back. You can ask me what I think. And I know there's a lot of people that were frustrated with my commentary throughout this trial, but that's how a lawyer looks at the case. That's how a lawyer argues the case, right? And they break down what the evidence is, the credibility, and it's different than jurors. And we've said that the whole time, which is why I was telling you kind of where I was, but throughout I was saying it's going to be a guilty verdict. Very confident it's going to be a guilty verdict. Everybody I spoke to. Lawyer, you know, I was with you on not guilty until closings. Then I flipped to guilty. Do you think 12 jurors would have made a difference? I don't. The quickness of this verdict reminded me of Ashley Benefield. What do you think of universal 12-person juries? I think it's kind of like when I play pickleball. If games are to 15, I feel more confident the good team is going to win. When you go a 3-game series versus a 1-game to 11, I feel like the better team is going to win a 3-game series more often than not. Now, game to 11, somebody gets hot, could go either way. So that's kind of how I look at it with the more jurors you have, the more likely it is that the correct result is made. If you can convict all 12 people of something, then I think it's more likely you got the right result. But I don't think in this case 8 versus 12 would have made a difference. The best nutmeg, playing devil's advocate, but I really feel her and her mom did it. And they were trying to set the boyfriend up to take the fall. She was playing him. I didn't really see anything to say they were trying to set the boyfriend up. I don't know if the mom was involved or not, but I totally understand why. And I've said this the whole time. It feels like Kouri Richins probably did it. I just felt like the evidence was not as good as I thought it was going to be throughout this entire case and the way that it was presented. Kouri, bro, you lost me as a fan with how wrong you were on everything about this case. How out of touch are you, dude? Put this comment up to say that when people feel this way, I understand. And that's okay. I'm not going to apologize for the way that I see.
But lawyer, you know, wasn't wrong. He said he think they're going to find her guilty. He said he was 80% sure that they was guilty. And he was bringing angles for both sides, totally unbiased. I give him his credit. This comment's stupid.
Facts and hear arguments and explain them on this channel about this case or any other case. And every single case we've covered, whether this person agrees with me or you agree with me, there's going to be a case that we talk about, if there hasn't already been, that we disagree with. And that's okay. I still want to hear from you. I still want your questions. I still want your comments. I still want to hear how you see it because I feel like I can learn from that. If you don't, that's okay. But
And Nona, that's what Peter said. That's what he was saying throughout this whole thing, that walk the dog letter. I didn't see it that way. But like I said, he's been doing this longer than me. And like I said, this is a lesson for me.
It's virtually impossible for us to see every case and every fact and every scenario the same. I want to hear from jurors so badly. So Ashley, that's why I played the judge's comment at the end. He said, listen, all the admonitions I gave you, that you can't talk to anybody, that you can't explain or talk to any of the lawyers or watch anything about this case, all of that is gone. You can talk to or not talk to anybody you want. And that includes lawyers reaching out to you. In Florida, we're not allowed to reach out to the jurors. Sometimes they reach out to us. Sometimes we're still able to talk to them. But in Utah, it sounds like the lawyers can reach out to them. And if I was allowed to do that, I would reach out to juries on every single case, win, lose, or draw. Because I'm always trying to learn, obviously. So I hope the lawyers do reach out, and I hope at least some of the...
Yeah, I hate that too. Because you ain't going to agree with everything that the commentators say, and you ain't got to. But you ain't got to be like, oh, I don't like you no more, just because he said something you don't agree with. I don't like that either, Jordan.
Jurors come out and tell us what they were thinking and how they got there. It's always interesting for me to learn.
Because I was in, y'all know, I didn't agree with what the lawyer, was saying. Some of the stuff he was saying. I'm a huge fan of his, though.
Peter, thank you for giving us the knowledge and insight. This was the first trial I didn't agree with you on, but that's okay. Sarah, I love it.
Melinda said it's a jury's duty to the end of the vote. Yep. Yep.
I love it. I love this comment already. I don't even care what you're going to say next. I also love Bloodworth's closing, and his demonstratives. So easy to follow. So you guys are the best, because this was something I wanted to talk about, and I forgot to talk about it. But you guys give me all the perfect segues, because I know that this chat is going to ask all the good questions. For all the lawyers watching this and listening to this, or people wanting to go to law school, thinking about being a lawyer, or paralegals, or anybody especially working on any kind of trial, the day and age is over that you cannot have demonstrative aids. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how bad at technology you are. There are people that can help you. You have to have demonstrative aids.
Okay, somebody explain to me what he mean by demonstratives. Exactly, Jordan, right? What do he mean by this day and age? You got to have more demonstratives. I guess that's I know that's a word, a lawyer term, but somebody give me if y'all know, a simple, like I'm gonna let it keep playing, but just let me know. I mean, I'll look it up though, but I'm gonna remember he said in this day and age you got to have more demonstratives. Okay, Lord, school me, sir.
Expect it now, and I would say they need it, because while I thought Bloodworth's closing was boring and too long, I thought he had some amazing nuggets, and I thought they were driven home and burned into your memory because of
the stuff on the screen, PowerPoints, etc. The beautiful Mo, and she's still up. She's schooling me still. Then BB say like a presentation, and then Nona said whiteboards, photographs, charts. You ain't lying, right? Like I got to go back and listen to that stream. How excited I fucking got. Well, I said, look, y'all. They told Carl when she get at the get out of jail free card with the Monopoly card. Oh my God. That's why Peter just said, anybody out here trying to be a lawyer, a law student, paralegal, we just trying to know the law. Let me tell you this. Them old days are over. Look, you some old days. You got to use a lot of demonstratives, whiteboards, screens to play it out, to give them that strong visual. And he's not lying. Because I'm not going to lie to y'all, boy, that rebuttal. What's his name? Mr. Bloodworth? Who I was calling Leave It to Beaver. Because I let my emotions get the best of me. Right? I'm not going to try to do that no more unless they just cruel. Right? Hard evidence. Man. Like, boy, that Alan Jackson closing. The second one and that first one was good. But when he said they want to look the other way, was that the first one or the second one? I couldn't believe it. And then that David Yannetti first opening of that Karen Reed trial. My God. They was hating on David. Like, people around the world was hating on David Yannetti. Like, I like the way it played out. Clearly, you could see Alan Jackson but I liked everything about David Yannetti, especially in the first trial. Boy, him getting Higgins I think Alan Jackson had to go somewhere, and him coming in there getting Higgins like that, boy, that was real work. You need to be able to see the evidence. You right, boy, talk that talk, no. Damn, thank you. Please subscribe. Please come rock with us, because you is talking that shit. She said the more senses you use and tap into, the better you get to your point across. Yeah, you right. But Peter good as fuck at what he do, y'all, ain't he? This motherfucker is great at what he do. Like, it's just like, me talking boxing. I could talk that shit in boxing. Right? Don't take no breaths. He spit that shit out.
His PowerPoint presentation and demonstratives. I thought the demonstratives were excellent. And I thought at times in his closing, it was excellent. But just the way it was done for me, from my brain, which is very different than other people's brains. It was too disjointed. And I felt like if I was listening on 1 time speed sitting in the jury box, I would have gotten lost.
You like Alan Jackson? Yeah, no, Alan Jackson, bro, like, cuz was cold. Like, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, man. Like, when that trial happened, when I was just watching, bro, like, I watched so much testimony over and over again. Like, that's man, that's why I say that trial was it was groundbreaking, like, in this era here. Man, shouldn't have never been a second trial. But the second trial is what's freed her, right? Like, man.
Or board. But I agree with you completely. And then the fact that the defense used none, it's just going to be so much harder to stick and engage with the jury. Frankly, I think she's guilty, but I don't think they proved all counts, especially the attempted M. Thank you for your insights, Peter. And I think that's a totally based and reasonable conclusion and feeling on this case. Chloe, coming back just under 3 hours from deliberations, I do not think they believe the defense closing one bit. Do you agree? Absolutely. And that's, by the way, if you watch the closing argument, John, will you send me the poll results whenever you can? If you watch my breakdown of the closing argument, I posted it after the verdict as I recorded it yesterday during the day. Did not think we'd get a verdict that quick, so I had to post my closing reaction after the verdict. But I told you, defense lawyers are sometimes just built different.
Yeah.
You make these arguments and then you get kicked in the teeth when they immediately disagree with you. And you feel like, man, I convinced myself, but the jury just looks at me like an idiot. That's sometimes how you feel as a lawyer. And defense lawyers just have the ability to shake it off like a goldfish memory. You know, like quarterbacks don't remember your last interception. That's how it's got to be. Okay, the poll results are 79% shorter than I expected, 20% as expected, and 1% longer than expected. So yeah, I think most people would agree that it was a little quicker verdict than you expected. Wafa, with how fast the jury reached the verdict, it made me wonder if the jury had made up their mind. This was a popular case in Utah. She probably did it, but I don't think the state proved it. Should they have changed the venue? Honestly, the change of venue argument gets a lot weaker when you as the defense pick a jury and agree to a jury.
Oh.
And so again, that's where, if anything, that's where the mistakes were made, that the defense didn't pick the right jury.
Ooh, boy, he talking that shit. Damn. Man. I have to go find some trials this dude was in. I want to go see him work. I wonder if he was on TV or he had to get up and do something. If y'all know, let me know. I want to go see how he worked or his work in the past.
Because they had strikes. Now, we didn't watch jury selection, so if they tried to strike some jurors that got on the jury and they asked for more preemptive strikes and they protected everything for appeal, maybe change of venue will be a big deal. And the 3-hour verdict may be something they put on there. But again, I don't think 3 hours is as strong as an argument as some people think, or as some people are saying it is. This was not a 2-year trial, right? This was a 3-week trial. They took 3 hours. It's short. Absolutely, it's short. Much shorter than I expected. Much, much shorter than I expected. But it wasn't 10 minutes. I explained to my boyfriend why I thought guilty on attempted M is terrifying. Not enough evidence. And he said, you sound like that lawyer guy you always watch. I know he probably means that as a cut, but there's probably worse people you can sound like.
Shit. He's like, he would, let me rewind that back. Peter had to laugh at that shit.
Maybe something they put on, but again, I don't think 3 hours is as strong as an argument as some people think, or some people are saying it is. This was not a 2-year trial, right? This was a 3-week trial. They took 3 hours.
Yeah, it do blow my mind that people who still think Karen Reed is guilty when you got a judge siding with prosecution so blatantly and the jury still got it right because her innocence is obvious. And I'm going to get back to that. But Jordan said, as soon as I heard 6 men, I thought, what the fuck were they thinking? Especially in Utah. Oh, my God. Jordan. And that, and like, I'm like, but see, and now I'm wondering if them women thought picking the man was better. Would that appeal to them? Oh my God. But Peter, but this shit funny as hell. Say Peter probably laughed that shit out. Somebody now you sound like that lawyer guy. You listen to, oh, this funny as shit.
Short, absolutely it's short. Much shorter than I expected. Much, much shorter than I expected. But it wasn't 10 minutes. I explained to my boyfriend why I thought guilty on attempted M is terrifying. Not enough evidence. And he said, you sound like that lawyer guy you always watch. Emma, I know he probably means that as a cut, but there's probably worse people you could sound like, at least when talking about this. Now, maybe my Florida State takes, or my take of my favorite city in the world, Clearwater, Florida, maybe those are bad takes. You shouldn't necessarily take them. But when it comes to this stuff, I think, we can learn from each other, right? I really think we can learn from each other. And I love talking to people that have been with me for years, listening to this stuff, learning, being on jurors. By the way, there is no rhyme or reason for people that follow this channel that message me or email me about their jury experience. They're not all voting guilty. They're not all voting not guilty. But you know what they're all doing? They're saying, I'm going in with an open mind. No matter how I feel about, this horrible SA case or this M case, it's a horrible case. I'm sitting there looking at this person. Could you really think it's horrible? But I'm looking at them as presumed innocent and making the state prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Oh, okay.
That's all really you can ask for. Wow, Peter, what do you think? Most pushback you have received on a verdict. She is guilty on all counts. The closing was the chef's kiss. Yeah, I think it is a little bit funny, like ironic funny, not haha funny, that people are saying like, haha, look at how wrong you were. When literally throughout the entire case, I told you this.
He did.
I never once thought this jury.
Like, what the fuck is his chat talking about? Because I was telling people on my show, Peter say he thinks she guilty. He thinks she gonna get convicted. Like, what are they talking? What are they talking about? Like, they fucking with him, right? They just fucking with him. I know they fucking with him.
Was going to vote not guilty. Never once. That doesn't mean I'm not going to point out the good points the defense makes.
And I'm sorry, I'm gonna try to get like Peter too. Like when I'm starting to do these cases and stuff, like with not a lot of cussing into this stuff, because like this dude cold, he ice cold, boy. He the truth.
Doesn't mean that I'm always going to agree and vote that way. And I realized about that myself, that social awareness, that not all juries are going to think the same as me. And I use that in my own cases and realize just because I think something doesn't mean that this jury I'm arguing to is going to agree with that. So I also don't really care and keep track of how many I guess right what the verdict's going to be and how many I guess wrong, right? If you just bet guilty every single time, you're going to have a 90+% success rate. So I don't really care about guessing the outcome as much as I do the process and talking about the case and the arguments and what the lawyers are thinking and what the witnesses are doing and what the jury's looking at and what the rules are. That's what I care more about on this channel than guessing what the outcome is going to be. Thank you, Jen, for...
Hold up. Did I just hear what I thought he said? So 90% of the time, it's a guilty verdict? That's the percentage? Oh, my God. He just said that. He said if you vote guilty all the time, your percentage is going to be 90%. Oh, wee.
Gifting 5 lawyer memberships. Because you really won't hear me brag like, oh, I was right about this verdict, I called it, whatever. Of course, people are going to come say that afterwards if they think, I would have voted a different way. And that's okay. That's the internet, right? That's the gotcha culture. I get that. I get what I signed up for. It doesn't bother me. People taking their opportunity to say, you were so dumb to look at it this way. I still disagree with you. That's the difference, right? The guilty verdict does not change anything about the way that I broke this case down across this case to me.
99%.
When I brought Whitney on very early on, we'll talk about that in a second. Michelle, following since depth, thank you, Peter. I found prosecutors' closing very compelling, especially when the incident started. I agree. That was a light bulb moment for me. That why everywhere when they were saying what happened, she started at 9 o'clock with that drink. That was a great argument. And like I also said throughout this case, I would have been open. Now, it would have been tough to convince me on the attempted M charge and some of the other charges to vote guilty, but on the aggravated M charge, I would have been open to a discussion back there on Carmen's credibility, and I think I could have been convinced. I honestly think I could have been convinced to vote guilty on this case. I would have voted not guilty. I would have walked in there thinking I'm going to vote not guilty. But this was one of those that I would have let the deliberative process really take place here, as you should, obviously, right? Susan, thank you for gifting 5 lawyer memberships. So yeah, Whitney came on very early on and was guilty very early on, honestly, probably before the case even started. And that's something we might hear, like, did this jury already know about the case? Did they come in with their minds made up? We're going to need a lot more.
Prosecutors don't pursue cases they do not think they could win. Now that makes sense.
Before any of us make that decision. The verdict came back faster than I expected. Do you feel the same way? Absolutely, Allie. It was absolutely faster than I expected. Maria, thank you for gifting 5 lawyer memberships.
Man, look, it came back so fast, y'all. We were still on for like an hour, 2 hours, and 15 minutes after that. Then they hit me. I'm thinking they just commenting on my post. They said the verdict. I was like, oh, shit.
Ashley, I personally like not agreeing with everyone on everything. None of our opinions or takes have to be the same. Having intelligent, respectful, and open conversations is what it's all about. It is why I love this channel and chat. A+. And honestly, it's like some of you feel like my, I don't want to be condescending when I say this, but I mean like my mentees or whatever. Like,
Melinda said, I think he said he has won. I believe him and his daddy too. I believe that. I truly believe that.
Students in a class, but I love it. Sometimes I'm like, these people love disagreeing with me, right? Like, I love it. Like, I'm like, no, I disagree with you about this, but what about this? You always say this, or I'll get the DMs. I love those because those are open conversations with people that I know are going to come at it from the right angle, and we can convince each other and talk about things.
So let me ask y'all, do y'all be up early in the morning too? I know there'll be other big time shows on, but I'm telling y'all, like this right here have changed the game for me. So of course we're gonna stay doing what we're doing, right? Oh, I just got turned up. Melinda just turned me up. I love you to death. So hold up, let's turn up real quick and I'll come back and finish my thoughts. Man, thank you so much, Melinda. Thank you so much, Ms. Reynolds. I appreciate that greatly. And I appreciate everybody on her. I want y'all to know that. Like real talk, I appreciate everybody the same. Now, look, have to be at work at 5 a.m. Shout out to you, Maria. I don't know if you heard me say hello earlier, but yeah, see, the reason why I'm saying that, y'all, is because, like, I'm gonna start doing a whole bunch of, oh, you finna go, Marissa? Oh, good night. Have a great night. Oh, Mona asked me a question. Do you follow the Jennifer Dulos case at all? No. Is that something I need to look into? Is that case coming up? Is it going on right now? Let me know, Nona. I'm sorry. Hey, good night, Maria, man. I appreciate you coming here, just like I appreciate everybody. Is that case going on right now? Or is it about to start, Nona? Because, man, I'm interested in all these cases now. I'm not lying to y'all. Right? I'm going to still stay doing what I'm doing. Y'all know how we coming up for protecting the house at all costs. But I am very intrigued on covering these cases now, right? And trying to be like the best I could be. It's mostly done. It's mostly done. No, I haven't followed that case. Right? But it's a big case. That I am finna follow. I'm just getting everything together. Shout to but that I am finna cover. But I want to cover other cases too, y'all. Like I said, I'm not a lawyer, right? But one thing I have been doing I've been watching this shit my whole life, and I ain't done that. I just love this shit. I like watching trials. And now to be able to cover them, have to pay attention, have to jot down notes and shit. I'm like, oh my. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm excited. Please forgive me. I'm excited.
And disagree about things. I love those kinds of conversations. I agree with this more than I can say. Sentencing is on Eric's birthday. I saw that. That's wild. It's a beautiful thing, right? Full circle. And if I was going to guess her sentence, I would guess life without parole. Jen, hello and happy St. Patty's Day. Oh yeah, I didn't even say happy St. Patty's Day. And this is a green shirt. You can't really tell, but it's olive green. That was totally by accident. To the lawyer, fam and chat, glad to be able to catch this one with y'all. Also, happy.
So her husband was charged. So the case going on right now, and do they have like a lot of circumstantial evidence where you can see the jury going back there and saying guilty?
2-year lawyer, membership anniversary to me. Yes, Jen. And Jen is a stalwart, always in here. That's what I'm saying. If Jen and I agree on one, great. If we disagree on one, great. Let's still talk through it. Let's still learn. Thank you for this super sticker. Mego, I feel like the defense may have been making strong points, but they were deeply unlikable and their delivery was brash and aggressive. I agree. They didn't take into consideration that the jury might hate all of them. I think they did at the end, Mego. They didn't do it enough. And that's the other things like some lawyers like, I don't care if the jury hates me. I'm going to do my job. I'm going to fight.
And this is why I'm confused at, but this is what a learning experience and a lesson, right? Sometimes they have a hard time with nobody. I have to check it out. I want to check that out too. For this dude, the husband offed himself right before trial to the girlfriend. Look. So Fotis Doulos was the husband, and he offed himself before trial. So the girlfriend got charged and was found guilty. So that means she had something to do with it. Oh my. Oh my. So her name was Jennifer Doulos. Oh my. Now see how much we got to, okay, so I maybe, because I'm going to be up for a little bit, I might go look at some on that tonight, like why we on her, if everybody's still rocking with me. Let me continue with that.
I don't take that medicine. I want the jury to like me throughout the trial. I want to be respectful. That doesn't mean I'm not going to go harder to witness. I can be respectful and go harder to witness across a witness. That's a difficult witness or difficult for the lawyer to get through. You've got to do things that are difficult. You've got to make the difficult arguments. You've got to sometimes do things that are going to be inconvenient for the court and for the opposing counsel and for some of the witnesses. That's best for your client. But the way you come off to the jury, you control as much as you can control. And I don't feel like they really try to control much of that besides apologizing for it in closing. It's being reported that there was a lawyer on the jury that deliberated. It was one of the two women. We've seen a bunch of lawyers on cases, right? I think this will be the third jury we've seen a lawyer actually on the jury. Yeah, lawyers can absolutely be on juries. And the vast majority of states, I think. I know they can in Florida. We've had a lawyer on our jury before. It's just unusual. Would a bench trial have saved her from conviction? I think the answer to that would be absolutely not. Can't know for sure, but my guess would be no. Mego, I think they proved that the drug deals happened, but not that she knew she was getting fentanyl. It seemed obvious to me that she thought she was killing him with Roxy's and didn't realize they were actual fentanyl. And that's why I thought the judge's answer on the directed verdict was so important. Kouri was trying to poison Eric. And if the jury believes she was trying to poison him and she successfully did poison him, that's all they need. I think the state did that in their closing as well. And again, one of the things I said is I wouldn't have backed off the fentanyl if I was state. I would have said, we proved it to you by Carmen. And I think if they would have done that, the jury would have believed them. It was very clear the jury was with the state. And that's why I say throughout the whole trial, if the jury is with you, they're going to overlook a lot of the warts on your case. If they're against you, they're going to create warts when warts don't exist. Regarding the walk the dog letter, can we get a woof? Yeah, I think that was damning. Now, I don't think that because of how quick the verdict was, I don't think there was a lot of jurors that were like waiting, and then when they heard the walk the dog, they're like, oh, okay, now I'm guilty. I think it was more like the final nail in the coffin versus the biggest nail.
Yeah.
If it was not guilty based on your standards of proof, she'd be another O.J. Simpson, someone who got away with murder. Okay? I think she did it, but I didn't like the judge or the case. I have never seen a witness participate on a sidebar. O'Driscoll, just my opinion. By the way, to that last comment, that would be called not proven. So there are probably a lot of people that have committed crimes that are back out on the street because our justice system is put up in a way that the state has to actually know and be able to prove you committed a crime, not just say you committed a crime. And because they say it and because some people on the internet believe you committed a crime, that you go to jail. It's not how our justice system is set up. Alley Cat, did you see the brief giving Kouri's mom counsel paid the court? Will her mom be next based on that? The brief. I have not seen anything on this. I saw somebody show that she got appointed a lawyer, but I think she was called a witness in that document, and it was in Kouri's case. I don't know enough about what's going on in that scenario to really have an opinion on it. Do you see any Fourth Amendment concerns for the appeal related to the private investigator? Silly question. Not a silly question. No, I think it's a good question, but I think the answer is no. And I think the defense kind of pointed that out in their closing. Based on the evidence available at this trial, is there anything you could have crafted in the defense to help sow more reasonable doubt in your opinion? So other people have asked, was it a mistake for her not to put on defense? Hindsight's always 20/20. I feel like they were very confident. That's why they didn't. Obviously, they were wrong. I think if they could have talked more about the illicit street drugs, what they look like, how confusing they would be, how easy it would be to confuse something with fentanyl or get something laced with fentanyl or that you think is one thing, but it's actually fentanyl, and people get pain pills and they end up being fentanyl. I think a lot of discussion around that could have been helpful. I really think that could have been helpful. I don't think calling her brother or putting her on the stand or trying to factually argue away any of that stuff would have been helpful. But I do think some of the illicit street drug discussion could have been helpful if they had some experts on the defense. Biggest problem with Kouri, until arrested, said he didn't have a drug problem. Changed that he was a drug addict, brought drugs to Mexico. No way I would ever do that to the father of my kids. Honestly, she didn't even do it after she got arrested. She didn't do it till way later. But I agree with you. That timeline made no sense. Truly. Feels like this trial was harder to be objective on because of how unlikable and annoying I found the defense. I agree with you. People get offended if you say this, but I agree with this so much, myself included. I did not like Kouri Richins. I thought that she was guilty before the trial even started. And I told you guys that. But that wasn't going to change the way that I was going to look at the evidence. But I realized that's also not normal. That's okay. It took your recaps to give me even credit to their points.
I'm going to say definitely that walk the dog letter showed me just how dumb Kouri was. Kouri's mom got away with murder. So Kouri thought she could too, but nope. I was disappointed. Jordan said I was disappointed in the defense. I thought, I know you thought the closing was good, but they didn't put in a defense to me at all. Yeah. I would have to agree. Jordan. You know, I would have to agree with what you're saying. Right. Because, you know, my way of looking now is going to be totally different. Right. You know, it's the big things, but it's mostly the small things, right? Because I'm under the impression, right, like the jury will understand. This is my impression, and I'm wrong. I'm under the impression that the jury would understand why a defense is going hard like that, and I'm going to object for their client who fighting for life. But I see, you know, it could be a big problem because that could turn the jury off. See, I'm not saying all jurors like that, but I'm just under the impression that the evidence should speak for itself, but it's most of the evidence, but like Peter just said, if you turn if you turn the jurors off, they could put other words with other words and think that's the meaning. Oh my. So now I'm looking at these lawyers now, seeing how they was doing, because the reason why, like, just think about the biggest case I just seen, Alan Jackson, the way he was going at them motherfuckers. The jury didn't get turned off in that, but it's all about scenarios and things. And now I get it, but there's just something that comes to my mind right there. I apologize, y'all.
I get it. Thanks for taking the time out of your vacation, Peter. I'm troubled by the guilty on attempted M charge. Yikes. So, Casey, I wouldn't look, now, this may sound like an oxymoron because of what I'm about and how much I care about, but I wouldn't look as much into it as they thought, just like kind of Bloodworth argued, attempted murder proves murder, murder proves attempted murder, because they felt the murder was proved. They thought the attempt was proven as well. I think it was probably more because of that than anything else, and I don't think it should be extrapolated further than that, hopefully. Chris, Peter, don't talk over me. Facts are facts. You are so biased. I'm switching to the know your lawyer guy. Yes.
Say now, let me ask you this, because I see what you're saying to Jordan. No. Scott was that her first lawyer. They said they had a something to where she couldn't represent her, right? But she was sitting behind the prosecution. Like, I know she went with them, but she was in the court sitting behind a conflict of interest they had. But she was sitting behind the prosecution. Can y'all remind me what the conflict of interest was?
I think it's mine. So tell him what's up when you get there. Jess G, thank you for the super chat. John, I thought she was less guilty than Karen Reed with the evidence presented. Thoughts? Not surprised by the verdict, though. Discuss in the chat. I disagree with that, obviously. I thought there was a lot more evidence to prove this than Karen Reed. This would have been like if there was a body shop worker that Karen Reed took her to the body shop, fixed up the light a little bit, and then went back to the house, but we don't really know if we can believe that body shop worker or not. That's kind of this situation, is they did have Carmen to say what happened. Now, whether you believe or not would have been up to the jury. They obviously did. Maria, Karen Reed is the case I disagree with you on, but I'm still here and learning. Plenty of people disagree with me on that one, too. Also, a Bloodworth fan, and thought he knocked it out of the park even if the jury was guilty. Samantha, first time super chat. How on earth do non-sequestered jurors avoid social media on prominent trials? I would have voted guilty on M, but not the attempted M. Samantha, it's the honor system. I mean, there is an element to the honor system. Tell them not to. Hope they do the right thing. And again, you can tease a lot of this out in jury selection and see who seems like they're taking this seriously and going to follow the rules and who doesn't.
Yes, he was there. Go look on closing, or you'll see her sitting right behind. Because it was another show I watched that point. It was that Surviving the Survivor show. I think that pointed that out to me.
So that's why jury selection is just so important. Jacob, thanks, Peter, for forcing me to think. I want you to remember to be open to everyone, even when I hate the lawyer or the parties. Good. This to me is about as high of a compliment as somebody can give. May sound weird, but it is. Sister Silas, yay, caught alive. Hi, Peter. Love for your videos. It's a good time then to remind everybody to hit the like button if you haven't already. Take a second to do that. Charles, prospective jurors are always told, bring your common sense, burden of proof. Circumstantial evidence is obviously critical, but the defense argument did not pass the smell test. And I agree with you. Sometimes that's all it takes. Right? Occam's razor type of stuff. I thought Bloodworth did an awesome job in closing for me. It was super easy to follow. Did anybody think Kouri Richins was not guilty? Felt that way the entire trial and still right now. But did anybody that thought that also think Bloodworth hit it out of the park with his closing? Do you think the location affects how long it takes to reach a verdict? For example, LA, Chicago, or Miami, it takes longer, but in Idaho or Utah, shorter. So different cities and demographics absolutely affect the jury makeup, the jury pool, and that could affect how long they deliberate. Definitely can affect outcomes. I'm not sure, if you just say one city to the next, but because the jury pool is so different, everything is really, even like where I'm at, Hillsborough County, which is like Tampa, versus Pasco County, which is kind of the boondocks, can be very different jury makeups, and they only live 30 minutes from each other. Michelle, good demonstratives are an A+. I'm surprised more lawyers don't use them. A lot do. But there's lawyers is a job that people do until they're really, really old.
Melinda said, I'm telling, because they said they don't know, and I seen her back there. Could have been lawyer fees, if she had money to pay her because the peoples are paying her fees at this point. I don't know. So that's something I got to figure out, because I did see her back there. And I was watching that other show today, and I'm going to show y'all what they said that.
And sometimes you're like, past time. And a lot of the leaders and bosses and people making the rules are older. Like when people talk about AI, we'll have another discussion about I always kind of chuckle a little bit. Be like, as long as
you saying it, Melinda? I see that, and I thought I had seen her there, but I just didn't think that would be her. But then when I watched that show today, it was a man and a woman on there, or it was probably them two women who said that. I can't remember what the other show was, But they said she was done. They were saying how beautiful she was.
Facing lawyers and making the rules for lawyers, and the leader boss lawyers are usually older. AI is not going to take over like that. They're not going to let it. I don't care how smart it gets, because they're going to put rules in place that don't allow it. But anyways, to keep the jury more engaged and help them put all the pieces together. Thank you, Saline Missy, for gifting a Lawyer You Know membership. Sadness. Because of Lawyer You Know, I've learned to keep my initial feelings at bay until the end. Guilty at first, then not proven. Then when the defense read the walk the dog, I went to guilty. And this is how it's supposed to be. The state needs to pull you and force you to be in the guilty camp, and then once you are, you vote guilty with conviction. Slightly behind on the lie, but wanted to say I am so surprised by the verdict. I've never seen so much reasonable doubt / lack of direct proof. Mixed feelings with this one. Real Light Squad, thanks for the super chat. Into the previous comment, like, yeah, I get why you feel that way too.
Yeah, she was a brunette. I thought I seen, and I promised them when I listened to that show, she was there. They said she was sitting right behind the prosecution.
Two people can look at the same case, same evidence, and see it differently. And people that act like that's not true, man, that's a tough life to just think everybody sees everything the way that you do. Because I certainly don't think that. I'm glad my actual name doesn't appear. Jess said, I am an investigator, and I am shocked by the lead investigator. He should have been better prepared. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to be embarrassed about that take. Mostly a lurker here. I was leaning towards not guilty. The closing helped me put everything together. And that's how it's supposed to be, right? Closing tie it all together to give you what you need to really get across that finish line. Amy, in my opinion, the prosecution case almost as weak as a Benefield case. Sergio De Niro, former federal counterintelligence, evaled her testimony, and AB was not.
So what's up with that Benefield case they talking about? Because everybody's saying that he wasn't guilty either. They said he wasn't guilty. No one said Sky is stunning, yeah. Well, so was Benefield guilty or not guilty to y'all? Because I'm seeing a lot of people saying he got screwed. I seen that trial alone, but I think the Kouri Richins was going too. I think.
Deceptive. Sad. Kouri Richins was not a DV victim, but such a quick guilty, still sad for justice. KRC. We need to learn to disagree with each other more in the U.S. Great coverage. Thank you. I agree. It would help us in many facets of life. Help us at work. It would help us in our families. It would help us in relationships. It would help us in politics. It would help us in school. It would help us in everything. Is reverse jury nullification a thing? I feel like she did it, but definitely wasn't proven. I mean, reverse jury nullification probably happens in a ton of cases, right? That's the point of people walking in there and just thinking they're guilty automatically, regardless of what the evidence is. So I get what you're saying, and I don't know if we have a name for it, but it certainly happens. The artwork and the personal experience, the defense said in closing, turned me off. Yeah, the demonstrative aids that they did use with the widow and the witch. They're right. Two people can look at things different ways, but I don't know. I don't think it was the best analogy for this case. Cooking with Vince. Thanks for the super sticker. Do you think Sky L was at closing arguments to suss out the jury? I was surprised she was there. I noticed she was there. Somebody said she was there.
See? I ain't even seen this. See that? See, y'all, look, he just said it. Look, he just said it. Let me start over.
Best analogy for this case. Cooking with Vince. Thanks for the super sticker. Do you think Sky L was at closing arguments to suss out the jury? I was surprised she was there. I noticed she was there. Somebody said she was there. Did they even know who she was? I know they heard Sky, but were they ever shown a picture, or would they know who she was? It was strange. I would never have gone and sat in a closing argument for a case I used to be on. I don't know if she was conflicted off. If she was, that would have been even more strange to me. I don't know. Jasmine, her reaction to the verdict was telling. The whole world would have heard my cries if I was convicted of something I didn't do and ripped away from my kids for life. I hear that and I understand that. I will only counter you with Don Adelson, because people were like making fun of her for her response, which was more like this. Now, I tend to agree with this, how I would have felt, but how she was acting throughout the entire trial, especially closing in some of the witnesses, her facial expressions were so bad. And the prosecution to highlight that might be an appellate issue. Richard said one of the top appellate issues. That could be one of the top appellate issues.
I don't know. I don't know who they're talking about. Was it a case that just happened? I think it was a man, right? There was the man. No, I think it was a man, because I know Baker was covering that case.
There's so many, it's hard for me to rack my brain. Maybe when I get my dad's reaction to the verdict, we can talk more about some of the appellate.
So you know what? I really got to go look at that, because I didn't look at none of that. I was so focused on this.
Sad Cat, thanks for the super sticker. LL Fool J. My biggest problem with how the defense tried the case was that they kept trying to slip in little changes to the facts. It went beyond trying to spin them. I think a lot of that was outside the presence of the jury, but the ones that were, if the jury felt the same. I think asking for the MJ stuff was just so bad. The marijuana stuff? Oh, Michael Jackson. Sorry, and Mary Jane MJ is usually marijuana. Yeah, I agree. That's how they could get to she was trying to poison him or get him the stuff that killed him, which I think the state did a good job connecting that. In one of the letters, she said Eric asked her to buy fentanyl from Mexico, or asked Karma to. She blamed him for it. Yeah, that walk the dog letter connected so many dots that make you think she's just an absolute liar. Nikki, I love this judge. I did not.
So you think he was guilty? No. Okay. I want to watch that though. I'm gonna watch that. I want to watch it.
Carmen at all. I wonder if the verdict
But who was this other Benefield you was talking about? Lady who shot her ex-husband? Yeah, Brendan Benefield from VA. Do you think he was guilty too? Melinda Reynolds? And what's the lady who shot her ex-husband? Was she guilty? Do y'all think she was guilty or not guilty?
Fentanyl only and not illicit drugs. The verdict may have been different. I don't think it would have been. Just my guess. I don't think it would have been. Amy, knew someone in one of my daily podcasts was in the courtroom and said youngest juror was one male in 40s. Everyone else was older. Agree that would have been an issue for the defense. For me, it was the defense with the misleading statements, lack of receipts, and full puzzle of the evidence by the state. And again, this is something I think Bloodworth may have been paying attention to online because he said, we came with receipts and citations for all of our arguments. What did they come with? Okay, there were so many times defense misstated things. Do you think that made a big impact on how the jury viewed the arguments? Example, closing claiming PI only considered M and S, not accident.
Okay, definitely, Melinda. Well, we're going to do that. Definitely, I might do that in the morning.
I don't, yes, I think the defense lawyers lacked credibility with the jury. That's how I'll put it. I think that's what it affected most is they lack credibility with this jury. Morbid Nerd. Hey, Peter, would you and Papa G ever consider doing a mock closing argument for a fake case? Would love to see you guys in action together. Probably not. It's just so hard to actually do that well when it's not a real case. There's not objections. There's not so much else that happened in the case. Just kind of feels to me. But I don't know. We can figure out a way to try and get something like that done. David, I was on the probably guilty, but there's reasonable doubt trained. But I think the walk the dog plus the drink note.
Me too, Jordan, but I want to watch it now.
In closing, was enough to get me to guilty. I was surprised Papa didn't seem to think the walk the dog moved the needle, though. Yeah, I totally disagree with him on that, but he wasn't alone. A lot of people messaging me were like, I thought that was a nothing burger. I was like, okay. Chloe, I think Alan Jackson was aggressive, but I think the jury liked him. But this defense team was being aggressive, didn't portray well to the jury. Yeah, I think Nico LaHood, you can say the same thing about. J Down, I wholeheartedly believe the defense lost the jury when they tried to characterize that open relationship text as a full-blown affair. Yeah, and I cannot blame them. I can't blame them for thinking the defense had no more credibility after that. That was so bad. That was so bad. Sorry, that's not guilty.
That's why I fucked up too, y'all. Because see, look, in that case, I didn't know Bryce was a man. I thought Bryce was a woman. Oh my God.
I don't remember what this was in reference to, Maria. Sorry. Totally disagree with you on KR. You're going to have to be more specific, Wafa, because I remember you mentioning some things during the Karen Reed trial. I think you're talking Karen Reed with that KR. But love you still.
Oh, no. So I'm going to love you being there, you and Melinda and everybody else to keep us updated so we could do it. I'm on it now.
Same. Liz, Al Jackson is loyal. You, Peter, are also a wonderful lawyer. And my sister, Karen, lives innocent. Liz Reed illustrations. I don't know if Karen Reed has a sister named Liz. And if she does, and this is Liz Reed, cool. If she doesn't, that's pretty funny as well because they made their screen name Liz Reed. Crazy Cat Queen. I appreciate you and other legal commentators who make me realize my own biases so I can take a step back and try to see evidence and I listen with a different perspective frame. Thank you for that. Crazy Cat Queen. Again, I'm repeating myself, but these are the best kind of compliments to me. And I hope I do the same. And I don't care that, listen, a lot of people listen to this. And if I was to flip the way I felt about something or saw something, I know people would be like, oh, flip-flopper, blah, blah. I don't care. Give me more information. If I can make a better decision, I want to make that better decision. I don't want to be afraid to change my mind if I get better information. That's why I say in this case, I am firmly and probably guilty, not proven beyond a reasonable doubt. But when we go back there, that's the deliberation problem or process. And again, Bloodworth saying, thank you, Katie, for gifting a membership. Bloodworth saying that 9 p.m. thing, that really was a light bulb moment to me. Maybe Kouri Richins was trying to do all this to cover this up. The entire thing, is that enough to prove it to me that she did it? I think I could have been convinced in the jury room. I really do. And I would not have felt bad about it. I'm not easily convinced. Watching since the Brooks trial, I've learned so much. Thank you so much. That's awesome. I think the defense attorneys lost the case. I know they said, don't judge our client, but they were so scattered, non-credible, and offensive. It was hard not to vote guilty. I don't think this was an easy case for any defense lawyer, so I don't want that to get twisted. I think this was a tough case no matter how you look at it. Curtis Smith, do you think the defense attorneys shouldn't have suggested Eric was secretly gay and a drug addict? Yeah. It felt so off. I couldn't listen to any of their arguments. I wonder if the jury felt so. Yeah, I agree with that for sure with the open relationship thing. Now, yes, the drug addict thing was stupid for them to argue because Kouri had already said that a million times he wasn't. Now, did he have pain and would sometimes he get pain pills from Mexico? I think that was plausible. It was kind of like mentioned. I don't think there was a lot of evidence of it.
See, y'all,
Andrew,
if y'all go back and listen, I thought Bryce was a woman. See, I fucked up when I was listening to that dude testify. Oh, man, I messed up. That's why they say you got to listen, you got to pay attention. The private investigator, when he say it was joking, of course it was joking. Them two, dude, oh my God, I missed that. I thought Bryce was a woman.
I was biased to not guilty. And I have family that passed in 2021 that was addicted to heroin when they were younger and bought drugs that ended up being laced with fentanyl. Bloodworth, way better good. I'm sorry to hear that you went through that. I had a similar experience with one of my friends. And you know that it can happen, but it doesn't mean it happens in every situation. So I agree with you there. Ashley, I thought she was guilty the whole time. I saw all of the pretrial stuff, though. But I understand how someone could feel it wasn't proven. Yeah, and that's the other thing about people that are really into these cases and watch everything beforehand. That's fine. But you have to realize that that does do something to you. JoJo, I hate to say it. Yes, she is guilty, but did the jury actually deliberate? It was way too fast. I mean, people might be underestimating how long 3 hours is. It wasn't a long deliberation. It was definitely fast. I don't want anybody to get it twisted. I'm saying this was a long, drawn-out deliberation. But there's a big difference between 15 minutes and 3 hours. Wish there had been residual drug evidence on the glass or pill bottle. It was a weird mystery. Well, there was residue on one of the bottles that they just didn't test that was next to Eric's bed. And those are the type of things I hold against the state. I really do. If you're with the state, you're just like, whatever, that doesn't matter. And you just kind of throw that aside. Because those are the types of things I'd be saying in jury deliberations for the people that are locked in on guilty. They're trying to convince me. I'm talking to them about some of the issues I still have. For the record, I would tune in less if everyone believed the same thing. Debate and disagreement is healthy. Yeah, that's boring. Boring. No thank you. Do I want an entire chat just saying, agree. Because even sometimes when people agree, they're like, agree, but not the way you see it. Can't wait to hear Papa T's take on the closings. Yes. On the closings and the verdict, which, by the way, he knew it was going to be guilty too. Like, he's a criminal defense lawyer through and through the last 4 years. But he was a prosecutor for a long time. A very, very successful one. Federal and state. Federal, they almost never lose. So you know what it feels like and what it looks like.
Talk that shit for Big George. I told y'all. Talk that shit. Look, Peter talking that shit for his daddy.
A trial that's going to end up being guilty. That doesn't mean you don't try. It doesn't mean you don't fight. 15 nanograms, milliliters of fentanyl in blood, plus 20,000 nanograms, milliliters of fentanyl in stomach, plus Seroquel, plus alcohol. That amount in mix, not accidental OD. That's enough, plus everything else. For some people, I think it would be. One thing I do before going to vote is meet with friends from all sides to debate and discuss issues. I appreciate you so much. Debating and listening to both sides is how we learn.
Like I said, I'm learning. I was appalled by it being 3 hours. I ain't gonna lie. I was appalled. But I'm learning it could be like that. Right? So I won't be appalled going forward if something like that happened again. Jordan said, I still think they voted when they went in. They all said guilty, got delivered. I don't make it till they thought it was enough time. Yeah.
I agree. That makes you the best kind of voter, you know? Martha, in answer to your question regarding defense argument regarding PI, I was very concerned throughout the Richins family putting their fingers on the scales of justice. Also, didn't like the gossip in the community. Seems like that wasn't something that was a big hindrance to the jury, right? And I could see that going either way too. Like Whitney was like, I would do the same thing if I thought somebody killed my brother. Yankee, going in, I believe she was guilty. After all the evidence, I think it's possible, but was not proven. How did they convict on could have signed? I know. Probably wasn't Eric. Did anybody say Kouri signed that? But again, if you think she killed him for the money, and she tried to kill him for the money on the 14th, and she had these closings, and she had plans with the money and plans with CNE, then you believe. Conviction on attempt at M made me think that the jury was going to convict her on M regardless. Not saying she's innocent.
But look, and that's another thing. Who else gonna sign that? But his wife. You could say, oh, she didn't sign it, but who else? That's what I got. That's the shit. The stuff I got to look at now. When it's a case like this, like who else could have signed it? And Jordan, you were saying she was guilty, but
not sure how much they really deliberated critically about this case. Maybe we'll find out in some of the jury interviews. I'm in the minority here. I thought she might not have done it, but now I just hope she is guilty. I get that feeling, David. Do you think the verdict would have been different if she could have kept that hot lawyer? It's hard to say. I would say no. My initial gut reaction would be no, I don't think it'd be a different verdict. But I don't know. You never know. Lawyers can make a huge difference. As I was watching Kouri throughout the trial, I noticed that she constantly rubbed her lips together during specific testimony. I felt it was to cover a smirk. I just got that feeling. I kind of did too. She'd be like, I kind of got that too. Candy, I'm late to the live. I'm torn on this one. Too much reasonable doubt. Agree, money and investigators' liberties are the only reason this went so far. Also, not sure it was completely a fair trial. Way too incidences and not a single valid explanation. I'm not sure if this is in specific reference to, but I think with the forgery stuff, I think that, you're talking about too many coincidences that show that Kouri Richins absolutely did this and none of their explanations made sense. Okay. Vanya, I don't know if I'm wrong for thinking that because they technically didn't prove KR administered F, that it should have technically been a not guilty verdict. I don't think it had to be that specific. I think it had to be Kouri Richins intended to poison Eric, and she did in fact poison Eric. That Eric didn't accidentally ingest it or could have gotten it from somewhere else or whatever. They do have to actually prove that.
No, say Yeah, they just stayed for dinner. Melinda say and say their goodbyes. And Nona say, I have been on 2 juries. One took 3 days to decide. The second one would have been really quick, I'm sure, but the dude took a last minute plea deal. Oh, wow.
Kouri intended to poison him and did poison him. Susan Ader, I'm not sure if my recall is off, but didn't they allow his truck to be taken off the scene by a family member right away? Horrible investigation. I know that Cody Wright, his business partner, got it from the repair shop when she took it in to get the oil change, and then law enforcement said they never searched it. I think that was the discussion around the truck. Bailey, in a civil case, I went with the side whose lawyer I didn't like. In that case, the defendant in this one, it was not the losing side of no credibility, not misstating. That's okay. I have eyes and ears. And yeah, jurors do trust their own eyes and ears and memory of the evidence as they should. I don't 100% know, but very clear to me that I must not have a clear understanding of reasonable doubt. It doesn't have to be 100%, but you have to be morally certain. You have to be sure that this person committed this crime. Like the stream, everyone. Yes, please do. We're almost done here. We probably have 5 or 10 minutes left. Kouri did kill Eric, in my opinion, but did the jury actually deliberate? Did they discuss, review the evidence? 3 hours was not enough time to have done that. They don't have to go back and review all the evidence. They have to discuss. They have to consider all the elements. They have to vote.
Oh, so they don't got to review all the evidence? Oh, my.
With what they believe to be the true and accurate answer and how the facts are applied to the law. Bonfire Barbie, if KR hadn't wrote the walk the dog letter, might have gotten up. So I think with this jury, she still gets convicted. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe the jury will say that. But I think with this jury, she gets convicted even without the walk the dog letter. It was the timeline in closing for me. Kouri's night started when she made the drinks, not found Eric. Derp, I wasn't confident before then. That was a big moment. Great job by Bloodworth. And that's why maybe he was right to put the entire kitchen sink into his closing, because you never know what one individual nugget you drop is going to be the one that convinces jurors. Nate Eaton just posted there's a new filing. Defense has asked for court-appointed representation for Lisa Darden. Why? I don't know the answer. Could be because she's a witness and she wants a lawyer there to make sure she's not incriminating herself. It could be maybe some charges are coming for her. I don't know. Bloodworth's comment about giving Carmen a deal, in that he'd rather an M than a drug user, was powerful to me. And that Kouri chose Carmen. He didn't choose Carmen. Joanne, Peter, just coming in hot on the live. Quick thought. Thought the defense came off angry to me and was not surprised, not guilty. Not surprised that it was guilty. Enjoy your spring break. Thank you so much. I've been 100% convinced she was guilty of count 1 since the beginning, but I was surprised on count 2. Plenty of doubt there. Don't be surprised, because honestly, that's the least surprising thing if they're going to convict on 1, that they're going to convict across the board.
And you're right, Jordan. That's what we were speaking on. Significant others are going to sign stuff like that happens. So, shout out to Madame Ma'am in the building. You was telling me she was guilty too, right? Salute to you, Madame. For real, boy. Hey, salute. Man, I got to give y'all credit. Boy, y'all got the eye of the tiger. Dum, 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 dum. Dum, dum, dum. Man, all y'all. Real talk, Nona, Melinda, you, Madame. Jordan even said she thought she was guilty. A lot of Moes and Mary B and a lot of other people, man. Man. Who we?
Jury had all weekend to process, not a surprise. Was the sequel not Kouri's medication? Something with a Q. I can't remember what it was called, but something with a Q was her medication. All right, Davies. I tend toward not guilty side in most cases, except for Reed. After reviewing the evidence, I've thought that no other theory is possible. I appreciate your coverage, especially when we disagree. And this is a good way of doing it as well. Going through. And to you eliminated every single reasonable doubt. Every other reasonable explanation, you eliminated. On rewind, but so glad you're on. I was looking forward to your synthesis of the verdict. Well, I'm glad you guys are here. Honestly, I love all the questions. Those poor kids, either way. Did I see Judge M doing things with the civil cash as well? I don't know if he's the judge on the civil case, and I agree. The most brutal thought about all this, and the saddest part about all this, is the kids. From the beginning, it's felt like that. When the auditor pointed out that Eric's life insurance went into the trust, then signed one just for Kouri, that was suspicious to me. I thought the way that the whole buy-sell agreement explained was how they normally are. Circumstantial evidence is evidence, and there was a ton of it. It is legally sufficient, no doubt about that. Yes, I'm Karen's younger sister. Our dad still always listens to you. One of my faves.
Yeah, they wasn't.
The way he speaks and his resolute feeling to me, and the way he always brings about we're a prayerful family, we're a religious family. It's the only thing that can really get us through. That dude is like a stalwart. That's always what I feel like when I think of him, or I see him in the courtroom, when we're watching a stream. Richard, I get why the jury isn't allowed to reach outside what they are presented. I took in so much information from your show and EDB. Clearly the jury saw something I didn't. What they got was much more focused. Yeah, there's a reason it's like that, right? And we try to set up a system as lawyers and judges and lawmakers that create the most fair scenario, the most even playing field. And that's not coming out here and listening to me and listening to Emily and listening to everybody else while you're watching a trial. That's not the way to be a juror on a case. I served on a jury this past summer. It was one of the most stressful things ever. Yeah, I get it. I don't think they go in there haphazardly and be like, whatever, guilty. Who cares what happens in this case? I really don't think they did that. If the jurors indicate they're in agreement, what is there to deliberate? Should still slowly go through all the counts and make sure you hit all the counts and ask if anybody has questions and everybody's sure and confirm. But I don't think you need to unnecessarily deliberate if everybody's on the same page after doing that. Brianna, thank you for the super sticker. And the question, why was Sky there? I have literally no idea. Your guess is as good as mine. Especially when something's being live streamed, like you don't have to go there to watch. Now, if it wasn't being live streamed, I can understand that. I have no idea. Maybe to look at the jury and try to get a gauge or to see how Kouri responded because she knows Kouri. I don't know. Ghoulie Bay, thanks for the super sticker. To me, this to me is the same as OJ's trial. If you have money, things move your way. The sister's face looked so evil. It can also be kind of the inverse that Kouri did not have enough money to pay for lawyers to handle and have a private defense. And, so that's also a big difference between her case and OJ's case. All right. We're at the 1 hour mark. We got it done in 1 hour. I saw some statements from the victim's family that Eric was the light of their family and Kouri took him from them.
No. Speaking of that, because I'm up, y'all. If y'all were with me. Speaking of that, I did get that. This is her people speaking after that. Shout out to Peter, man. That was excellent. And I got to get something else up with.
Eric is deeply loved and missed every single day. We are grateful to everyone who has worked tirelessly to bring justice for Eric. Our focus is now on honoring Eric's life and supporting his boys as we all continue to heal. Thank you all for being here.
Anything you want to say in reaction to the verdict, though, as far as are you happy? Are you satisfied? Is there justice served?
Honestly, I feel like we're all in shock still. It's been a long time coming. So just very happy that we got justice for my brother.
And tell me a little about Eric. How do you want him to be remembered?
Just as the amazing man and father he was. So I know we'll be coming out more later, probably after sentencing, and we'll talk more. So.
Were you surprised how quickly it came down?
A little bit, yeah. I think everybody was, but I think the jurors did a fantastic job. So I'm just so grateful. So yeah. Thank you all so much. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Surprised and shocked and relief. Long time coming. I mean, this is 4 years. And what did you think about that? 4 years.
Exactly what you said. That's a long time. 4 years is a very long time.
Some relief?
Definitely relief.
I notice there's some emotion. What are your thoughts with feelings?
I'm just relieved. Oh my God.
Tell me about that.
Justice is served. Yep. Justice. I don't really know what to do.
What's the last 4 years been like? I mean, as far as waiting for this moment?
Hard and difficult and emotional. Yep. We're definitely relieved.
Were you surprised the jury came back so quick with the verdict?
No, I don't really. We weren't prepared for it to be that quick, but surprised a little.
When it came back that quick, did you think, okay, this is probably a guilty verdict because it came back so quick, or did it give you any indication?
No, I was just as nervous.
We've always been positive. We've been positive the whole time. So as a family, we've just tried to stay together and let justice prevail. So yeah.
Do you feel like you can start healing more now that this is concluded?
I think everybody can, yeah.
Where do you go from here?
Figure out the new normal. For sure. Right?
What are you hoping happens to Kouri on sentencing day?
I'm gonna let the courts figure that out. That's not for me to say. I think that justice will prevail with that as well.
There are 3 little boys at the heart of this. Do you have any hopes and wishes for them?
They're just loved. They have a lot of love surrounding them. They're great boys, and they're gonna be fine. Yeah.
Obviously, we're all here for this murder trial, but how do you want Eric to be remembered beyond the circumstances of his death?
He was an amazing father, brother, son, nephew, friend. He was everyone's best friend. Everyone that you ask, how do you know Eric? I was his best friend. So he was an amazing person with the most contagious laugh out there. So we loved him, and he's got some great boys, and we're just excited to
just surround them with love. We're just gonna wrap them up, and yeah, we're just gonna make their lives as good as we can. I mean, they're this great family. Yeah.
How taxing has this been, particularly on Jean? We see Katie, Amy crying in there. How's it been for them, watching them go through this?
It's been rough to relive it. You know, it's one thing to have someone pass away and then a year later to have the circumstance kind of flip and you have to deal with that again and be sad all over again, but under different circumstances, and it's been tough.
It's been hard on them. I'm sure they can speak for that on their own at a later time. But yeah, we're just here for them and the family. Here for Eric. Eric did a lot for everybody. He was my cousin. I miss him every day. Think of him every day. Love him. I mean, I'm here to support him. I mean, he's just a great human.
Saying walk away.
Yeah. Any chance we could just get your names real quick? What's your name? What's that? No or yes? Can we get your name?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Your name, sir?
Richins family.
Richins family?
Yes.
Okay. Are you cousins? Or
Yeah, cousins.
Cousin? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Just like Madame just said, sentencing will be hard. I imagine a lot of tears. I'll be set with my hands, tissue next, tissue box in hand. Yeah. Oh, we y'all. Like, man. One thing this case showed me, you know, by listening to people like watching guys like Peter. Shit could change with me. Right? It showed me these lawyers' demeanors. They got to know how to play to the they don't annoy them. Oh wait. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me? One second.
You're daily if you do. You're daisy if you do. But I ain't got shit to prove. Blue dust, gold tooth, little Bruce, smile sharp enough to choose. Bang, bang, right through your cool. Walking like a rumor with a pulse. Lip curl sweeter than your cold. My eyes say try me and you freeze like song. Got your huggle. You wanted that smoke, I'm the whole damn stack. Got your huggle. Step up, I'll clear the room. You're daisy if you do. You're daisy if you do. All aces in my hand, better back. Tongue sharp like a tag, hit a click, clack. You wanted that heat, now it's time to meet the sun. No shade, just black. Walk slow, silver in my lap. Halo, crooked heart attack. Say a piece, talk that trash. I turn every word to glass. Cut deep. Got your huggle.
Salute, salute, salute. Yeah, we have to take a quick break real quick. I'll get some sleep, madam. I appreciate you, lovely, beautiful lady, for stopping through. I love you to death for that. It's about to be it's just 1:10 there though. But I love you to death. I love everybody to death, right? But this what we finna watch right now, y'all. And I hope you have a great night's sleep. And see you later on today. These people we finna watch right now, like, they was the truth. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I enjoyed this. Right? And I didn't get to see it all, but I'm gonna watch through a little bit of it. Or all of it if people still rocking. If people still love me, see.
To have tonight a experienced trial attorney, a former judge, a court TV host, someone who has been an advocate for children for entire career. She was the child advocate for the state of Georgia for 3 years. So she will be able to really share with us her expertise and perspective with regard to the boys and their situation and what one might expect from them or for them going forward. And then also her perspective as a litigator and a judge as to some of the things we saw during the trial. So I'm not going to waste any more time. I want to bring her right on. And so we will have now with us Judge Amber Wilkins. So welcome. Well, Ashley Wilcox, sorry. Ashley
No, that's all right.
Wilcox.
Thank you, Joe, for having me. I'm thrilled and honored to be on with you.
Well, thank you so much. We are thrilled and honored to have you here. So let me start right in. The children were 9/7 killed. From all reports, he was a great involved dad. Their mother has been in jail for about 1.5 years or 2 years now. And now she's looking at probably a life sentence with very little possibility of ever being out. What needs to be done for those boys?
So much. So let's start with this. Don't forget that in that interim, after they lost their father to a horrible, horrible death, right? There was a book, Are You With Me? Written by Kouri Richins, the grief book about how children can get through grief. Okay, so she's doing that because arguably, understandably, her children are grieving the loss of their father. And you think, what a great mother. What a great way for a mother to help her children through this. There it is. Are you with me? Only to find out now that she's been convicted that she was doing that all the while having been the one that killed their father. I would call that, let's back up a little and then we'll get to current, emotional abuse.
And let me just interject. At trial, it came out that she hired a ghostwriter to write the book.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Now, in and of itself, I think a lot of people hire ghostwriters, but it adds one more layer of deception to someone who was accused of planning this horrible murder of her husband, Eric. So great point.
Man, you ain't lying. When you just think about it now, or you hear with me, whatever the name of the book is, like when you just think about it now,
And think about, she's hiring a ghostwriter. She's taking care of her sons. Everybody believes, well, not everybody, maybe not some family members, but people believe that she's a grieving mother. She's promoting this book. She's going out. Why? Money, 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 money. But all of this to say that now looking back, I can't even fathom what these 3 young boys were going through and the fact that a mother would have put them through this. And so even the time before she was in jail, what emotional abuse did they suffer? And that's going to be with them forever because they're going to know as they get older exactly what their mother did to their father.
No, I ain't seen that one. Megan Sunwall. I ain't seen that one. Who is she? Let me know who she is. Have the trial started yet? Damn, that's in Utah too? Damn, Utah getting some coverage. Who is she? Is the trial starting? What's she accused of? Let me know. Right? For real? It's on my, oh my God. Oh my God. But if you tell me about that and that case on, then maybe we could watch a little bit of that. But I want y'all to hear a little bit of this right here real quick.
Then she goes to jail. And a lot of people ask me, Joe, what happens to kids when one parent's dead and the other goes to jail? Well, hopefully, as in a case like this, there's a family that's appropriate, that can safely care for the children and love the children. Well, you saw during the trial, Joe, and I don't know your thoughts on it, but lots of family members of Eric were there, right? And you saw them there. Now, you also saw Kouri's, I believe it was her sister that we could see sitting behind her. I know, and maybe I can't recall for sure. I know his sister was there, and I can't recall if her sister ever came to court or not.
Both his sisters were there and his father. Her mother was there.
That's right. Thank you.
And I don't know. I can't tell you about his sister because I don't know what his sisters look like.
Yeah.
So
and so there they are, and they're watching this unfold. So the good news is, in a case like this, yes, they've lost their father and their mother, but they're with family, which is ideally the way you want it to work if children lose both of their parents. Had they not had family that was suitable, they would have ended up in the state's custody. They would have ended up in foster care. So this is a good case, if there is such a thing in a horrible murder case, that they are at least with family during this entire time that she's been in jail, and now while she serves the rest of her life in jail.
What would you advise his sisters, one of them has custody of the boys, to say to the boys about the circumstances of the death and the mother being in jail?
What a great
if I were in this situation, I would want advice about how to handle it in the best interest of.
No, this is what I was talking about earlier, y'all, right? Because I remember it was another case where this dude was really innocent, but he was still convicted at the time. It had been years ago. It was a famous case, a white dude. He said, I'm innocent when they were walking to the car, right? I got to go look back at it, right? But he still was able to see his son twice a year. So this is what I was hitting on right here when they was talking about her still seeing the children.
The boys, not for me, looking at someone who killed my brother, but for them.
Yeah, you just said the key words, what's in their best interest. And as a former judge, when I was on the bench, I'm going to tell you something. I relied on the experts because they're the ones that know. So if it were me, or advice I would give would be love them, but consult with experts that you trust that can help them with counseling, can help them with therapy, can help you figure out.
So is it going on right now, Nona?
I'm going to say is I have worked with a lot of youth who have grown up in foster care in really horrible circumstances of their home life, right? Abuse, neglect, sexual abuse, drugs, all these terrible things. And the one consistent thing they say to me as they age out and become an adult is the frustration is the entire process ultimately was about me. And yet I didn't feel like I was a part of it. And people didn't want to tell me, oh, your mom did these terrible things, or oh, your dad was murdered. And they said the truth of the matter is we knew it. We lived it. If we lived it, why couldn't people tell us or talk to us about it? So I will say at the end of the day, how you do it is beyond my expertise. But the fact that there has to be some honesty and transparency, because Joe, you know as well as I do, even at their young ages now, they can see everything on social media. They can see everything, every detail on social media.
Plus, I know from being around lots of children over lots of years that they see and hear.
Because in actuality, she is convicted. Okay. In actuality, she is convicted, so she is a convicted M. So you say her name, Megan Sundahl. Is it good so far? Is it a particular part you want me to go? I could go to right now? Man, they looked happy.
Much more than some adults give them credit for. I mean, they're pretty
100%.
aware. Yeah, they're pretty aware.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that these sisters bear, if not hatred, certainly no friendly feelings towards Kouri. And so if they're honest with the boys, they can't hide those feelings. But is that the best thing for the boys, to hear the sisters say, we despise her?
You know, I think every parent faces that, Joe. Like, think about it. And all those kids you've had experiences with, have you had to temper your emotions about a circumstance? Absolutely. Of course, right? So it's no different for them, even though it's another level of tragedy that they've had to go through at the hands of his wife, Eric's wife, who murdered him. It still means that they have to temper some of the anger and grief, and I can't even imagine the extent of their emotions that are all completely valid as a victim, but they have to be able to temper and present that in a way that's healthy in the best interest of the children. Now, how you do that, I don't know. Like, I can't even imagine, right? Like, again, I'd have to go to the experts to help me as well as the kids.
In your experience, do children work this out? I mean, we see a lot of comment, or I do in the chats, about, I don't know that they're ever going to get past it. And that's a pretty sort of sober prediction for these children.
Is the opening, do they have is the opening arguments good, or should I go past that? Let me know, because I'm going to listen to it like about 5 more minutes of this and I'll go pull it up. Because I think I did see something like that.
What are their prospects?
Sure. I don't think anyone gets past a murder like this. A murder, the death of a loved one, even if it's an accident, a car accident, nobody gets past it in my mind. What does happen is justice at the hands of our criminal system. And in this case, I would argue the fact she's been convicted of all charges, including the aggravated murder, and the fact she will not get out of jail anytime soon, in my opinion, knowing that we're awaiting sentencing, I think she'll be there for life. That is a type of justice. Now, it doesn't make it go.
She did, maybe. I give you that. She did give them type of vibes. I give you that. She did.
Way, and the children may never get past it, but it is a natural, positive next step in the story as it moves forward. Now, getting past it, I think, means different things to different people. And I have talked to people who have been victims of these crimes. Again, on the bench, you saw victim impact statements all the time, and it was heartbreaking. But so many of them would say, I'm not going to become the person that this act is, meaning, yeah, it's horrible, but it doesn't define me. I'm not going to be a horrible person. It doesn't mean that statistically now I'm going to go commit crime in revenge because of what's happened to me. And so children can be resilient. Gosh, Joe, they're so much more resilient than adults, right? And so with the right tools, with the right support, with the right love, that I have no doubt they have the love of his family, with all of that in place, they have an excellent opportunity to never get past it, but to learn how to live with it in the healthiest way possible.
That's a great way to put it. Should they see her? What if they don't want to see her? What do you project, if you can, their relationship with her?
This is why they call you Prof. Joe, because you've got all the great insight and questions.
I mean, the questions, not the insights.
Oh my gosh, you do, because a lot of this, in a good way, is based on experience, and that you're looking at the best interest of children, right? That you think of that first, versus someone like a Kouri Richins who didn't give a crap about best interest of her own children, which is horrific. But the reality is, 30 years ago, when I first started practicing child welfare, there was a belief nationwide and a practice nationwide that children should never visit their parents in jail. So that if a parent was in jail, even for a crime that wasn't necessarily domestic violence, murder, egregious, but might be fraud or check writing, right? That the belief was, no matter what they were in jail for, that it would be bad for a child to go to jail, to have that experience, to see their parent. So it used to be, it really didn't happen. Judges didn't want to order it. People didn't want to honor it. They just didn't really support it. But now that's come a little full circle. And there's a belief, as we learn about trauma-informed care, which is now important. And it's always been important, but it had never been identified, recognized, or practiced. So as we look at trauma-informed care, the reality is you need to do what's best for the child. And it may be through therapy, through working with the loving family, that the child gets to a point where they say, I need to see mom. I need to look her in the eye. I need that for me. One of the other children, given they're 3, as you mentioned, might say, I never want to see her again. And I can process this, and I can work on my feelings, and I can have a loving, supporting family, but I don't want to see her. So I think the important thing is, not only should experts and family help make that decision, but the children's voice needs to be heard in deciding, should they ever see her?
Okay, so I think yeah, that do look interesting. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Hold up. That case do look interesting, I ain't gonna lie. It look interesting as hell. No cap. It look interesting. So yeah, I just was looking at, I just seen that, and I want to see this case, because I want to see what's popping. One second. Okay, so she gonna be the first. See, y'all give me like 1 second. Let me get this right, because I gotta. I want to try to play it like this, but sometimes it be tripping. That's why I gotta download it. So I be wanting to real quick. And these opening statements, they pretty quick. So yeah, I want to see that. One second, my people. One second. Rock with me. Let's just take a little break real quick. Quick. One second.
You're a daisy if you do. You're a daisy if you do. But I ain't got shit to prove. Blue dust, gold tooth, little bruise, smile sharp enough to choose. Bang, bang, right through your cool. Walking like a rumor with a pulse. Lip curl sweeter than your cold. My eyes say try me and you freeze like salt. Got your huggle. You wanted that smoke, I'm the whole damn stack. Got your huggle. Step up, I'll clear the room. You're a daisy if you do. You're a daisy if you do. All aces in my hand, better back. Tongue sharp like a tag, hit a click, clack. You wanted that heat, now it's time to meet the sun. No shade, just black. Walk slow, silver in my lap. Halo, crooked heart attack. Say a piece, talk that trash. I turn every word to glass. Cut deep. Got your huggle. You wanted that smoke, I'm the whole damn stack. Got your huggle. Step up, I clear the room. Smile sharp enough to do. You're a daisy if you do. You're a daisy if you do.
Man, I almost got that uploaded for y'all. It's almost done. And I really want to check out because I've been seeing that come up on Court TV, but I was so focused. Maybe I need to stop being, so because it's a lot of time to do all that other stuff too, So that's what we finna get on. So let's get it. Come on, be the okay, it's done. All right, don't give me no problems. Okay, can y'all hear me? I hope y'all can hear me. Can y'all see that real good? Let's see what's popping, y'all. I think we good.
Megan Sunwell over here had a plan. Her plan was that she would go to her friend Casey Terry's house. She would inject her with insulin and monitor her blood glucose until Casey died. We know that's her plan because she had text messages to Casey telling her that. On August 12, 2024, Megan put that plan into action. Casey did die that day, but she did slip into a coma from profound hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar. And 3 days later, she was removed from life support and died. That is a nutshell of what the trial is going to be about. There is a heck of a lot more information about the how and why. It kind of reminds me of that art form of pointillism, where you see those, if you're looking, right up close, you see a bunch of little dots or little colors that don't make much sense, seemingly randomly arranged, until you have them all in place and you step back and you see the whole picture, and then it all makes sense. Then you see what it all means. And that is what is going to happen, I expect, with this case. There are a lot of witnesses that each have a little bit of the points that will contribute to your understanding of what happened. Some of those witnesses have a whole bunch of points. Some of them just have a few. And they don't necessarily follow sequentially, which is why I wanted to give you kind of a heads up about what to watch for, what it is that they're going to be letting you know about what their evidence is sensitive to be. Let me first tell you a little bit about Casey. And throughout this morning, I'm going to refer to them by their first names. I don't mean any disrespect by that, by any means. It's just for simplicity. And because my whole brain can't function better than that. So I am going to refer to them as Casey and Megan, if that's all right with everybody here. But Casey, at the time of her death, was 38 years old. She was a granddaughter, a sister, a niece, a valued employee, still loved ex-wife, and a friend. She had had some loss in her early life, or actually in her life leading up to her death. She had lost her mother when she was only about 4 years old to an extended illness. The aunt that she had that stepped in a mother role also died from an extended illness. She had a cousin she was close to that died, and her father died when she was only 24 years old. So she had a lot of loss. She herself had been born with only one kidney. That wasn't a huge deal, but it did present some health issues to her as time went on. At the time of her death, she also did have some valid medical concerns that did give her a lot of pain. One of those being endometriosis, one of them being prematurely and heavily arthritic knees. She had a lot of pain from those conditions and was prescribed medications for those conditions. She had prescribed oxycodone or Percocet. She had prescribed Xanax because she also suffered from anxiety pretty heavily. Her doctor, Dr. Masteller, who you'll hear from, had discontinued the Xanax prescription because he didn't want those on board at the same time. Casey still wanted her Xanax and did admittedly go about getting it by probably less than she also, at the time she died, had a prescription for something called promethazine. It is diagnosed largely for nausea, but kind of makes people sleepy. And you will hear about that from her physicians as well and the function of it. She had also had, probably in 2020-ish, a port installed in her chest. The port is like a little teeny doorway that leads directly into a vein so that when you have a condition that requires frequent IV occurrences, you don't have to keep finding a new vein to puncture. You just put it directly into the port. And she had that port for IV fluids, for hydration, because that was a side effect of her kidney issues. Another characteristic of Casey that is relevant to this trial and plays heavily into it, and not to speak ill of the dead in any way, but Casey was a liar. She told a series of lies. You will hear about them. One thing I think the evidence would support is that those lies were designed to get and keep people's attention and interest. She didn't know a way than to feign some type of illness or for some reason to create drama and draw people to her that way. One of those lies, well, let me come back to that. In around this time frame, probably 2013, 2016-ish, Casey met Megan. They both worked at a facility called Chrysalis in Provo. That is a facility that offers services to people that are developmentally delayed or impaired. Casey was a house manager there for inpatient residents, and Megan was hired as a nurse. She was an RN, and that was her function there. Casey actually met Megan within her function as a nurse when Casey came to Megan to take her blood pressure. They kind of hit it off. They got along really well. Their relationship, their friendship developed, and they became very, very close. So much so that Casey spent a lot of time with both Megan and her parents, her family, and they sort of took her in. There will be some testimony from some family and friends of Casey's that it was kind of an odd relationship in that Casey seemed to be afraid of making Megan upset or making her mad, and that she would do whatever she could to keep Megan happy. Along those lines, probably in that same time frame in 2016, Casey conveyed to Megan that Megan was a beneficiary of Casey's life insurance policy. She showed her documents that indicated there was up to $1.5 million that Megan was going to be the beneficiary of. That was an ongoing topic between them from about 2019, 2020, all the way up until just a couple of months before Casey died. Megan seeking assurance that that policy was still in effect, and Casey giving her assurances that it was in effect. The truth is, there was no such policy. That was another one of Casey's lies. Casey, I don't know if any of you ever watched, or your kids, I should say, watched VeggieTales. There was, my kids did when they were younger, there's one episode where one of the characters told a little fib, and it was this cute little bean. But throughout the episode, the more the lie grew, this little bean grew and grew and grew and grew until it was this overwhelming size that was just going to take over and just overcome the character's life. That was kind of the case with Casey, because she told a lie that turned into a whopper. She told people, most particularly including Megan, that she had cancer. She didn't have cancer. She never did have cancer. But she told that to family and friends, and they all believed her right up until she was hospitalized in that diabetic coma. That is a lie, just like VeggieTales, that grew and grew and grew. And that is part of the life insurance policy lie also, because she didn't really, at 38 years old, didn't expect to be making anybody necessarily a beneficiary of her life insurance, except for this fake cancer that she had. In 2019, Casey texted Megan, and this is one of the texts that, from which you could find that Casey was really just seeking care and concern from Megan. But this text said, "Tell me that I'm not dying." And Megan's response was not offering her affirming words or, live your life to the fullest while you have it or anything like that. She said, "I don't know if you're dying or not. I'm sorry. You need to be prepared no matter what happens." After this medical port I told you about was installed, Casey portrayed that as being part of her cancer treatment. She told people that that was for because of her cancer, and she had home health aides that would come in the house and help her with, doing that IV hydration, IV fluids. She had delivered to her home bags of saline for that purpose. But she told her family and friends that those bags of saline were her chemotherapy. The lie continued to grow. She portrayed to Megan.
Okay. Now, good night, Melinda. Love you. I didn't know that, Melinda. Good night. Love you to death. Sweet dreams, beautiful. Love you to death. So now I done read about it and seen what this case about, right? So basically, Casey, that's her name, right? Casey? Is it Casey? Yeah, Casey. I mean, no, her name is Sunwell or something. The other, hold on, is it Casey Sunwell? It could be Casey Sunwell, right? And her friend name was Terry. Yeah, sleep well, beautiful Melinda. Her friend name was Terry. And they said that she gave us too much insulin or something. And then they got a bunch of text messages where like she encouraging her or whatever to kill, to M herself, and she would, the friend wanted to assist. She was giving her these fake symptoms she thought she had or something, and then Sunwell thought she had a $1.5 million insurance policy on Terry, but that was never the case. So that's just a little brief summary. Let's continue.
That she was close to death. She portrayed to Megan that she was in tremendous pain from cancer and wished to be free of her pain. It was a frequent topic of conversation between the two, and we will show you there are reams of text messages between these two. I think there are something like almost 29,000 text messages that we would be here the rest of the year. But we'll show you some, and there was one in 2020 where Megan told Casey, "There is nothing left for you here." She told her also in 2020, "You have so much more for you on the other side." In 2021, she told her, "What do you have to live for in this life? I truly believe everything for you is ahead of you. not here.
Damn.
And then another one where she told her with caps, you have to let go. It is past time.
Oh, we.
Again, this is in the context of Casey's wanting to keep Megan happy and do what she wanted her to do. And Casey went along with those text messages. She did pretend to be suicidal. She portrayed herself as being interested in ending pain, the pain that didn't exist for the cancer that didn't exist. At some point, Casey, this was in 2020, Casey was living at Megan's home with also with Megan's husband with her too. And their conversations turned towards different, they discussed different means of ending Casey's life. One of them was a gun. Casey had access to a gun. Another was an overdose of pills, where Casey had access to all of that oxycodone and other substances. They settled on eventually insulin. Megan told Casey around September 1st of 2020 that she had checked with a pharmacist friend of hers and that she would need about 100 units to end her life. 100 units of insulin is a little teeny amount. It's actually only a milliliter. There's 10 milliliters per bottle. So those last diabetics a good amount of time. And Casey's family.
Yeah, that's what I read. She wanted the life insurance money policy, but it did not exist. And then I read somehow I can't wait to hear the defense too, because they're gonna say that she wanted her to help her kill herself. That don't mean you still do it, but I want to see. I don't want to rush the judgment. Oh my God, Jordan. I'm so thank you, Nona, for this, because we're definitely gonna be doing this.
Of diabetics in it. There was insulin available at Casey's home where she lived after she moved out of Megan's home. Because her uncle lived there as well. He is diabetic. You'll hear from him. Her grandparents live there. Her grandmother is diabetic. And uncle had recently died earlier that year, and he was diabetic too. So there was a lot of insulin, a lot of syringes accessible in that home. So Megan and Casey discussed the idea of Casey's dying by insulin overdose. Megan told Casey that it would be easy. She would just fall asleep. And it wouldn't even necessarily be detectable at autopsy because it's a naturally occurring substance. Within a day or two of that discussion, Megan brought home insulin and stored it in the refrigerator, and then texted Casey a number of times over the next week or so. Hey, that insulin's there if you want it. Don't forget the insulin. Are you going to use the insulin tonight? That insulin's still there. Aren't you going to use it? Casey, around that point, had communicated with Kylie that she thought Megan was trying to kill her. And so Kylie and her husband, they waited until Megan and her family left town, and they kind of swooped in and moved Casey out of that house. At that point, both Kylie, the sister, and another friend of Casey's saw the insulin in the fridge. You know, quite honestly, I don't know if Casey really believed at that point that Megan was trying to kill her. But I do believe that this is another story that Casey used it was drama. It was something to elicit concern from the other people in her life, from Kylie and her friends. Anyway, she moved out of that house. She moved into a basement apartment at her grandparents' home in Highland. And as I mentioned, also living there was another uncle initially, who died in January of 2024, lived there as well. During that time frame, that did not end the discussions about insulin and
what word, Lady Jordan?
Insulin overdose. Megan asked Casey in 2021 if Casey was nervous to do it by yourself.
Maybe. I'm sorry, maybe. What word, Lady?
And then she asked her, you want to know what I would do? Megan told Casey that she should draw up everything she had and give it all at once through her port, and then asked, do you want me to come over and do it? Continuing her subterfuge, Casey pretended that she had made attempts using insulin to kill herself. She would text Megan that she had tried to do it, and she started to, this lie again continued to grow and grow and grow. And the details of it became so outlandish that it appears to be a cry for help. She knew she was making ridiculous claims, Casey, thinking, I believe, that Megan would catch on and call her on it. She told men that she had used 4 bottles of insulin. That is 400 times the amount that Megan had told Casey she would need to cause her death. At a later point, Casey told Megan she had used 9 bottles. 900 times was she used, and she was still alive and kicking. Megan didn't call her on it. She continued, the conversations. Oh, I can't believe that didn't kill you. And it continued to progress. Eventually, Casey pretended to be in hospice care, that there were nurses and doctors coming over to her house all the time. She concocted a story about a surgery that her doctor, Dr. Masfeller, was going to do for her, arrange for her, that would allow her to absorb medication so she could die. That was one of her stories. Another story, she would send just ridiculous vitals to Megan.
Nona just put me on to this. Nona, can you tell Mevi if that's correct?
Knowing that Megan was a nurse, and those vitals would be things like a temperature of 75 or a blood pressure of 0/40. Just insane, ridiculous, stupid numbers. And Megan never called on it. But these stories continued to grow. Casey fabricated an entire hospice care team, and they would communicate, these fake people would communicate with Megan through Casey's phone. There was a fake nurse called Becky with whom Megan would communicate on Casey's phone. There was a doctor, Dr. Robinson. Casey pretended to have Dr. Masfeller coming to her home. So, like I said, there was a whole team of these people, and they would communicate pretty regularly with Megan, telling her, oh, she's near death, she's almost there. Megan always expressed excitement about that. Oh, I hope it's true. To back up just a little bit, in March 2022, Megan had sent a text to Casey telling her, somebody, parentheses, should probably be me, should be with you and continue to give you doses of insulin so your blood sugar will actually stay low and you can pass. Well, that became the plan. It was referred to a number of times after that Megan would help Casey. In June 2024, Megan told Casey, I'll come and help you and give it insulin to you regularly and see if it works.
Damn.
Casey came up with another subterfuge, which is that she would tell Megan, okay, I've drawn it all up, meaning I've put insulin into these syringes and it's all ready to go. She didn't want Megan to be there drawing up the insulin. Casey did it, and she Googled August 11th, what would happen if I inject myself with saline. So I think you can put two and two together on those particular texts as far as what the reasonable inferences are there. On August 20th, 2024, Megan asked Casey when she could come and help, offering today, tomorrow, Monday even. August 10th was a Saturday, 10th, 11th, Sunday, 12th, Monday. They initially agreed that Megan could come and help on August 11th. Again, Casey told her that she had drawn up the necessary syringes. But
it is, because God damn, 20,000 texts. Man, this ain't looking good.
But then, as Casey regularly did, she postponed. She found excuses and put off Megan. And so they agreed to Monday, August 12th. On Monday morning, August 12th, Casey saw her uncle, Mark Farnsworth. You'll hear from him. And they had a good conversation. There was nothing unusual about it. Didn't raise anything concerning in Mark's eyes. He just had a nice regular conversation with Casey and then went about his day. He worked from home.
Well, you ain't lying.
The upstairs part of the home. And Casey, like I said, lived in the basement apartment there. Mark noticed Megan arrive. That was at about 9:54 a.m. And then again, didn't pay much attention. He figured one of Casey's friends was there and they were going to do something, and he went on about his day. When Megan got there, or as she was approaching, she texted Casey, do you want to take some promethazine when I get there so that you are asleep when this is happening? Somewhere around 9 p.m., Mark, so almost 11 hours later, Mark got concerned because he hadn't heard any sounds or signs of Casey that entire day. And the vehicle, Megan's vehicle, was still there. Casey's grandfather had actually been trying to call Casey and wasn't getting an answer. So Mark went to check on her in the basement. When he went into Casey's room, he saw her lying on her bed, struggling to breathe, unconscious or at that point in a coma, and Megan sitting there watching her. Megan's parents were also there. They had arrived about an hour earlier. Megan had called them to come and give her a blessing of release, make her die faster. None of them called 911. Megan claimed she didn't know what was happening. She was well aware of what was happening. They found a glucose monitor in Casey's room that showed that her blood sugar had been tested 19 times over 10 hours. That began at 9:18 a.m. That was probably, most likely, because Megan wasn't there yet, Casey testing her own blood sugar to see what was normal for her. And it was normal. It was at about 87. That's a regular, perfectly good blood sugar level for a non-diabetic. Her blood sugar was tested 8 times as it dropped from 87 when she tested it to 64 by 1:19 p.m. Less than half an hour later, at 1:43, the monitor showed a level of 43. Casey would very likely have been unconscious at that point. Your body requires blood or sugar in the blood to function. It's the food for everything that your body does, and she didn't have enough, and her body was shutting down. After Casey was unconscious, her blood was tested 10 more times, and the only person that could have done that was the only other person in the room that was conscious, and that is Megan Sunwall. For at least 7 solid hours, Megan was there watching Casey descend from confusion to unconsciousness to a coma, repeatedly checking her blood sugar to make sure it continued to drop.
Oh, my.
It did. Megan did exactly what she had promised Casey she would do, which was when she said, I'll come and help you and give it to you regularly and see if it works. Well, it worked. By the time Casey got to the hospital, her blood glucose level was 14. She was in a coma from which she never emerged, and she was removed from life support on August 15th. Was life insurance enough? Well, 1.5 or $1 million is a pretty hefty incentive for a lot of people, but Megan also happened to be in financial distress, and that was another topic of conversation between the two of them. Since the beginning of the year in January 2024, Megan had lost her job. She had run over something on the road and caused $4,000 worth of damage to her car. The car ended up being totaled. Her husband had doubled his child support requirements from her prior marriage. They owed on taxes. And then the car that they did have kept overheating. So she was stressed financially. She expressed in February of 2024 to Casey, Casey expressed to Megan, I wish I could just pass so you could get out of this mess. And Megan's response was, if you dying would get me out of this mess and darkness I am in, I would take it.
Oh, God damn.
When police got there and realized that Megan had been there and had left with her parents without waiting for EMS to arrive, without telling them what to look for to try to correct for Casey, they instigated an
investigation. She was 38.
Megan was pretty cooperative. She talked to them a number of times. During an interview on August 15th, police asked her for her phone so they could look at the text messages that she had been describing, telling them that Casey was suicidal. Megan agreed. She didn't hand over the phone right then and there, but she did bring it to them on August 19th. When police reviewed that phone and compared Casey's phone text messages with the text messages on Megan's phone, they found that 283 of them had been deleted from Megan's phone.
Uh-oh. Now remember, in the last case, Kouri Richins, we was looking at, like, motive, means, and opportunity. Like you said, her husband, child support just doubled. Well, I know this, I'm keeping it open in mind. I'm just going out what the prosecutor is stating, because it got to be fact, right? She lost her job. These text messages, her saying, oh, if that would be great. Oh, my God. Oh, wait.
When police asked her about that, she told them that she did it so she wouldn't look like she had done what Kylie was accusing her of, which was murdering Megan, or Casey, sorry. For deleting those messages, Megan Sunwall is charged with obstruction of justice. That is simply, I want to make sure I'm saying it right, when someone alters or destroys anything, such as the text messages, with the intent to hinder, delay, or prevent a criminal investigation. That one's the easy charge. The other one is aggravated murder. Aggravated murder happens when somebody intentionally or knowingly causes the death of another and does so with aggravating circumstances. The aggravating circumstances that are alleged in this case are that she did it for pecuniary or financial gain, or that she did it by means, again, I want to make sure I give you the right language, causing death by means of a substance administered in a lethal amount. So the question that you will be probably spending most of your time on is cause. What does it mean to cause someone's death?
Good night, Jordan. Love you to death.
Cause does not mean in the law.
Thank you so much.
That she had to be the sole cause. Megan did not have to be the only reason that Casey died. If you find beyond a reasonable doubt that Casey would not have died but for the actions of Megan, that is sufficient. I expect that my friend over here is going to argue in a minute that Casey was suicidal and that she did everything she did herself. I also expect that he's probably going to spend a lot of time talking to you about reasonable doubt, and that's a hard concept.
It's 2 here too. It's about to be 2 in 6 minutes. Y'all sleepy. I ain't mad at that shit because I understand. But goddamn, I got to watch this the other dude as well. This is good so far. Yeah, exactly. Why didn't both Bryans get charges like that? You know, they run Canton.
To define. It's something that people struggle with quite regularly, at least in our field. It is reasonable doubt. It is not beyond all doubt or with no doubt, because we can't know anything in life. We don't even know for sure if the sun's going to come up tomorrow. Okay, not a lot, but there's probably doubt about that.
Ooh.
So you don't have to be convinced beyond all doubt. But if you find from all of the information that's available to you that you are firmly convinced what the state has alleged happened, then that is enough. We talked earlier about the concept of pointillism and how all of those little points form a big picture. And the little points, just so you know who's coming, that are contributory to this picture will include Casey's sister Kylie and her uncle Mark, her best friend Michelle Tingley, her ex-husband Casey, her family calls him Boy Casey, Casey Tanner, a friend, Christian Clements, Casey's employer, Mike Larson. You will hear from Megan's parents, who were there for some of that incident that night on August 12th, Leroy and Renee Randall. Additional information will come from her doctors, Dr. Masteller, the doctor who performed her knee surgery, Dr. West. There is a nurse that communicated regularly with Casey. Her name is Amber Lidvigson. There is a nurse practitioner who took care of Casey while she was comatose. Her name is Diane Allred. You'll hear from her. You will hear from one of the first emergency responders to arrive at the house that night. That is Lone Peak Police Officer Norman Robinson. Believed at the time the call came in was that they were responding to just an overdose or possibly a suicide and treated it accordingly. You will hear from the investigating officers, Melissa Farney, Lone Peak Police Department detective, and Richard Hales, who has a really long title of Special Agent with the Utah County Attorney's Office Investigations Bureau. I spit it out. You will hear from the medical examiner that was in this case, operated in this case, or conducted an autopsy, Dr. Ben Murray. Also the toxicologist, Scott Larson. You will hear from also the special agent from the Utah County Attorney's Office that did the phone downloads, Justin Seitzinger. You will also hear another medical examiner who didn't do the autopsy, but has experience with insulin overdose cases to provide some additional information to you, and also an endocrinologist who has specialty in the effect of insulin on the human body, on the system. And she will be testifying. Her name is Dr. Kelsey DeSalvo. So those witnesses will give you all those bits and pieces. Like I said, some of them are massive, some of them are tiny, but they all form that big picture. That overall picture is, I believe you will find that Casey neither wanted nor intended to die on August 12th. Even though she pretended she did want to in an increasingly desperate attempt to keep Megan's attention and affection. The evidence tends to establish that Casey thought she could handle Megan, but she didn't count on Megan's determination. Megan was there. Megan was in control. Megan had the means and the knowledge and the understanding. And Megan stood to gain from Casey's death. Megan wanted Casey to die to relieve her from the stress of her financial situation. And that plan worked. Casey died from an overdose of insulin. At the end of this trial, after you hear from all those people, we will again stand before you and ask that you find Megan Sunwall guilty of having done so, guilty of aggravated murder, and guilty of obstruction of justice.
Oh, that was good. Oh, that was good. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. That was good. Oh, I'm intrigued. Oh, I'm intrigued. Oh, because give me 1 second, because I just don't want it to. Should I just try to play it? Fuck it, y'all let me know. Yeah, let me know. Cause shit, let me know. Cause I just want to see if it's gonna play without me having to download it. Y'all let me know though. If it's not, please. Oh no, you told me.
PowerPoint may not be that important, maybe helping me more than you anyway. I'm not going to stand up, as my colleague said, and tell you what I believe. That's not what opening statements are even allowed for. What I believe is not what I'm going to be talking to you about. I'm not going to argue. I'm not allowed to argue here. This is to be a conversation about what the trial is about and for.
Me too, maybe.
Way of important principles that you then will keep in your mind, keep with you, keep in your heart as you take in evidence. Evidence that must prove a murder. Not little dots that might make one. I have an argument. Not going to argue. I'd like to talk more about the importance and solemnity, first of all, of what we're doing here. Not because I think you need me to, but I'm going to anyway. We're not at the water cooler. We're not at a home conversation. We're not in a TV show. We're in the most solemn place in our society. We're in the four corners of the courtroom, and we are applying in this case, you are applying in this case, we all are, principles.
Now, I don't like how he sound already, but I'm not gonna judge him off the way he sound. And I don't like the way he's saying, I ain't here to tell you this. What is you here to tell us then? I'm going live. I mean, this case tomorrow, right? I might go live tomorrow for this case because I'm finna make sure I get all caught up on it. Like, and what I don't get caught up on, I'm gonna do it at nighttime, but in the daytime, I might be covering this, y'all. So it's gonna be every day.
Right? That our country's built on. That the blood of men and women in our service has been spilled on foreign soil to support. And I ask you to make those live. Every minute of this trial, with every witness that is speaking to you and bringing information to you, in light of the government's burden, according to those principles, to bring proof, not argument, proof of murder, that Megan murdered her best friend. And you've already had the level of proof read to you. It's in your instructions. What proof beyond reasonable doubt means. Real possibility. It'll be whether there's a real possibility that didn't happen, that it's not proven. And yeah, it's got to be murder for money. You will hear about suicide because that's not murder for money. Although it will be illegal, and you'll learn this at the end, you can't do something. You can't act in this state in aid of someone who is, according to what you believe, committing suicide. And quite frankly, that applies to if this person, in this case, Casey Terry, doesn't intend to commit suicide. In fact, it's just faking it. And we're doing it to her demise. And so the single question I submit, or the largest question, not a dot, but a question under the principles that apply, is, will the state prove by evidence, beyond a reasonable doubt, with no real possibility to the contrary, that something happened in that room that Casey Terry could not have done to herself? I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on the evidence that I expect you to see. I ask you to keep in mind that it's because the state has this burden that they go first. And witnesses are witnesses. I submit to you, they're not the state's witnesses, although of course you'll see and it will be obvious the biases the state's witnesses have. They know what team they're on, but they're still just witnesses. And when I ask questions, I ask you to pay attention, of course, to those answers and how they're answered. Keeping these principles in mind. There will, however, also be evidence that you would expect in a case, in a court of law, with those burdens, in the way of forensic testing, medical information, testing, and those sorts of things as well. And there'll be an investigation spoken of by Detective Barney and by Richard Hales, who work in tandem, although as you'll learn, Hales works for the prosecutor's office. And I'm going to be critical of that. I'll get to that in a moment. I'll tell you why. I think that effort isn't going to have been fair to you in your decision making in terms of the burdens of proof. Casey, Terry, Megan, I'm going to put that up. It's on the wall. I don't think it's going to be disagree or become the closest friends that you could imagine. And how it came out, I think no is because you will find that Casey Terry is exhausting in the attention that she seeks from Megan. Exhausting. And
oh my. Okay, now listen. I'm keeping an open mind. That's what I got to do. Right? But this defense lawyer coming out here saying she was exhausting in what she was trying to do, like the woman he defended wasn't participating and sending a text message, or she wasn't there when it happened. I'm keeping an open mind, but I'm listening to him.
The way that she seeks that attention and engages in this friendship is just to bombard Megan with her complete misery with being on this planet. And constantly telling Megan that Megan is the only one that she can have a secret, confident relationship in about wanting to pass. And I think it will be clear, certainly in Megan's mind, spiritually relieved by passing from this earth. Now, the way she gains that, part of the friendship, the evidence will show, is not only to just bombard and constantly talk to Megan about how Casey wants to die and wants Megan to be part of that. We're going to talk in a minute about Lee and Mane, Megan's parents, who were there because they had been asked by Casey Terry repeatedly to give blessings to Casey as she was going to die, and had gone to do that before, based on what Casey was claiming. Casey Terry absolutely planted beans that were going to grow. I might talk back on and forth on this a little bit. Sure, you heard.
Get together, bro.
You heard Ms. Thomas mention that Casey Terry was a liar, and that is extraordinarily important in this case. Certainly, we all know people we think are liars, and it affects our lives one way or another, depending on the importance and the nature and severity and their ability to get us to believe. It's extraordinary, you will see in the evidence, Casey Terry's ability to make people believe these lies. Not just the lies themselves being extraordinary, the extent to which she could make people believe them. Casey Terry lied about this cancer, for instance. She perpetuated and maintained the lie that she had terminal cancer. Describe it to one person's blood, describe it to another's leukemia of some sort. She would describe that she had terminal cancer you will see from the evidence that, of course, that is planting a bean to get attention. And you'll see that she split the way she lied this to different people who would give her different sorts of different attention in different ways and have a different ability to fool. That is what she used, that lie, among others, but that lie, to constantly get the response from Megan of sympathy, confederacy, privacy, closeness, spirituality. And this is fueled by Casey Terry to seek attention. But she's so good at this lie, not only, I don't know if the state's going to ultimately ask you to believe that Megan didn't believe it, but her own family. Casey Terry's the evidence will be her own.
Okay, you say plant a bean. Oh, wait. Plant a bean. I don't know. You know, looking at this, if I would come out and start it like that, like blaming it on the victim, right? Because I'm looking at it like this, right? You know, I can't wait to see more evidence. I'm looking at, if you know this person is telling you that she want to do this and she want to do that, why you ain't getting her no help? You encouraging her. But hey, I want to see more. But with him saying planting a bean, oh wait. If I'm a juror, I'm like, what you mean planting a bean? The victim.
Family believed it. A family that before her death, she lived with for years in the same house. A good family, a very good family. Mark Horton's words, when you hear what that poor man has been through and his intelligence, and notwithstanding that, you would take her to the hospital for visits that were fake at midnight all the time. She would make these people take her around for fake treatments.
Okay.
For years. And it's because they believed her. They learned she didn't have any cancer. They learned she didn't have these other ailments. She would talk about kidney disease. They learned she was healthy when she died, according to the doctors. They learned it from the doctors at the hospital. The bean that continued to grow, the evidence is going to show, and I say this in light of the question about whether Casey Terry was suicidal like she claimed 4 years and claimed that night. There's a script for this night when we get to that. I mean, a script, literally, in text messages. She did this for years, as the evidence is going to show, and as I mentioned, but things were escalating.
Oh, love you, Nona. I'm thank you so much.
Calling the doctor more and more towards the end. She was talking about anxiety, depression. She talked to the doctor, mentioned suicide. You're going to hear that. She talked about suicide to some people. She certainly ramped up her supposed misery level. It's not just opiate use and opiate abuse and opiate addiction that was going on with Casey Terry. Casey Terry was buying, selling, exchanging drugs with other people. It was ramping up. Another thing that was ramping up. Casey Terry was stealing from her grandparents that she was living with. Grandparents that her role in that house was to take care of. In a house where Mark lived, and then Mark's parents, Casey's grandparents, who her grandmother was suffering from mental health disease, dementia, and her grandfather was old and trying to take care of mom, but Mark knew that they needed help, and then Mark believed that Casey needed help. Now, Casey was hopefully going to contribute to this household by helping her grandparents. Well, what was right? What she was doing is stealing. And towards August 12th, it really ramped up. It ramped up, and it ramped up. Her use was getting the money with these people she was involved in with the drug interactions, and it came to a head. There was some mention, roughly, I think we're going to hear from Mark about a week before Casey died, that Mark had some concerns about the billings that later you're going to hear were found to have been repeatedly and constantly intercepted by Casey to hide her stealing. and the use of the credit cards, and that Casey was probably present, probably overheard that, probably knew, and frankly was asked to cancel the credit card, which she never did. So as you contemplate the state's position that it's somehow ludicrous to believe that Casey Terry was actually maybe going to take the off-ramp that she had created, the evidence will show, you'll be able to contemplate whether the bean had grown out of control.
The bean!
And she knew that life as she knew it, as a liar, had finally hit the critical breaking point, and it was going to come out. Now, Mike, and one sunball you'll hear about was an easy mark for Casey Terry. The evidence will show, and it will show through the very communications that are going to be introduced. I submit to you, cherry-picked to the extent out of 28,000 text messages that go on. Of course, there's phone calls, they have meetings, these people are friends. At one point, as you heard, they live together. Megan and Mitch let Casey live with them. That she never called her on it, is what you just heard. The evidence is going to show. Megan wouldn't call her on it when Casey would tell her stuff that was ridiculous. 74-degree temperature. You're going to see and hear that happened all the time. Megan offered unconditional love to Casey Terry. She didn't call her out on things. You're going to hear that even her doctor didn't call her out on some stuff when Casey Terry, as her doctor, I expect, is going to agree and testify, use the medical service process to gain attention by coming up with false maladies. You're going to learn, there's going to be Kyle Hancock. He's a psychologist. He's clinical work and he's done expert work. And he can help you understand, even from an expert standpoint, not only about someone like Casey and someone like Megan, but what that means in terms of those two types of people having a relationship and the dynamics of that. So as the government suggests that Megan should have called her on it, stop being an unconditional friend, I think you'll be able to look from the evidence as to why that would be, to the extent that it's not already obvious. And quite frankly, throughout their relationship, and throughout conversations, and throughout constant and exhausting pleas from Casey for Megan to unconditionally accept what she said, unconditionally show love, and promise to see her through the end with blessings from her father and being present in a form of helping her by being present when she died. They were even referenced spiritually. Freedom from the pain that Casey was claiming in the form of a spiritual release. This is the room where Casey Terry essentially died. She went to the hospital and was taken off support, but I think the evidence is going to show she was never going to live after paramedics took her from this room. I blew that up. You can see on the left, up next to her bed in a frame, are Casey and Megan. The closest thing to Casey when she essentially passed. This is the room that is the scene of what the supposed murder. Whether or a suicide, or make it believe to be a suicide. It looked like this was another fake that Casey overdid. The events. Yes, you're going to hear again about all of these communications, and some will be picked out that sound pretty bad if you don't know in context like I just described, but if you give it some show full context. Discussion about, if you're so desperate, I hope you just do it. I hope you just commit suicide. I'll help you if I could. Megan says she's being bombarded by Casey begging to go. And by the way, this is an insulin. It's not a new topic in their relationship. You will see from the evidence that talking about dying by insulin in this always in terms of a suicide, a way to pass, had been talked to them, between them, for years and years. When she lived there, you'll see texts that show that because of that, Megan would even bring it and have it in the house. They're not diabetics. There's no diabetics that live there. Casey's not a diabetic. It wasn't. Insulin isn't some suddenly nefarious factor in this case that showed up on the 12th. I'll talk a little bit in a minute about what you're going to hear about, quite frankly, insulin when she moves in to Mark's house, to her grandparents' house, is everywhere, all the time, unaccounted for, all sorts of them, because Mark's a diabetic, mom's a diabetic, sister's a diabetic, And his brother Kyle's a diabetic who unfortunately died in January of 24, so 7 months before what we're talking about here. So insulin's talked about as a method of suicide with Megan in these texts. I think there's going to be witnesses that say they've seen it, and you're going to see that Casey is begging her to help her be able to have access to that and saying she's going to use insulin to kill herself. Well, apparently you're going to hear that she's telling her sister, Megan's trying to kill me. Manipulating her sister at one point, yeah, to move her out of the house, where she's got to freeload in the basement of Mark's house. And that's basically nothing except deal with getting and using opiates and other drugs of abuse. The events were scripted out in Texas, you'll see. They planned for Megan to go be over there. And once again, that Casey would use insulin to engage in an overdose. And again, uncontroverted, she had the ability to get insulin anywhere she wanted in the house, and no one would know. Same for syringes. Now, this port is different. You don't need a syringe for a port. You can inject something into a port through just a plunger type syringe that doesn't have a needle. You'll have evidence that that probably wouldn't have been used. It caused the death here because of the different way it would act if you just put it right into a port versus subcutaneously. So that was the script. She was going to come over, and Casey would be there. Megan would be there, and Casey would engage in an overdose. Suicide. When they get over, when Megan gets over there, Casey's already got a glucose reading instrument. There and ready. I think you're going to find out the police didn't even realize that she'd already taken a test result. And you can draw inferences as you go through this trial when you're that about why Casey Terry's already checking her blood before Megan ever gets there. This glucometer, ultimately they find, was used to take a whole bunch of readings. In a minute, I'm going to show you, thank goodness, for Megan, that this was used. Then throughout the day, eventually, because the glucometer tells us what Casey's condition was. And ultimately it deteriorates to the point that Megan, who when she went over there, didn't know whether it was going to work, didn't know what was going to happen there, didn't know whether this was just yet another where he would say an anniversary dinner with her parents that night, and then she worked at night as a part of a second job, and had expected that she would be going to work. And when it was clear from the use of the glucometer that, and what she could observe, that Casey probably was done from her cancer and or the insulin overdose, she was not going to live. And so Megan called her parents. And her parents left the dinner, or I can't remember, I'm sorry, they'd already started, but they abandoned the dinner plans and came over. Lee and Renee went in there. No, I think the evidence will show that neither Casey, despite all these years, nor Megan, is ever going to tell anyone that that's how Casey was going to pass. Part of the confidentiality, part of the sanctity of their relationship. And as we're talking about in a minute, probably something that, quite frankly, even though she was willing to be present for, even encourage in terms of her release, not consistent with, she could get in trouble with work, her license, etc. Isn't letting her parents know what had been happening during that day, just that she was dying, and that Megan had stayed with it. But what happens is, by the way, you're going to hear and see in the text message evidence that all through this time, Casey had constantly told Megan she had to do not necessitate a deal. She had constantly told Megan that Megan was going to be power of attorney. She had gone to burial plots to talk about the places she was planning on being buried. She had told Casey that she wanted Bella, her dog, cremated and buried with her. Bella, by the way, is, I think, sister or brother to Megan's dog, too. Came out staying with her. She had told everyone else the evidence is going to show the opposite, that Megan was some sort of awful person, that she was afraid of Megan, that she thought Megan was going to hurt her or kill her. What happens when Mark the uncle comes down from his office upstairs at 9. And by the way, I'll let the evidence play out on that day. I'm not sure what Mark's going to say from the stand. You may hear that some testimony has been given in various places in this lawsuit, and recorded interviews were given with witnesses, and so sometimes that may be needed to be used to refresh their recollection. The best I can tell you is what I expect, and you'll see it happen. But when Mark comes down, he calls Kylie because of the distress, obvious distress that Casey's in, and Kylie loses it. She says, call the paramedics. Megan is killing her. Immediate accusation. And sounds like based on what I think that you'll find were lies by Casey to Kylie. Megan calls Kylie. And Kylie lays into Megan, get out of the house. You're killing her. I'm going to get you put away or take you out or something to that effect. And is screaming at Megan accusations. The importance of that is for you to consider what Megan does end up doing, which in a lot of ways made it look pretty bad. She now knows that someone's going to actively go after this. She ultimately on this subject speaks, she has this worried response. She does speak to the police, but she also, I think animals will show, realizing she's going to be accused, realizing she was there, maybe suicide will come up, it's on everyone's phones. Deletes like 280 messages about insulin. I think the evidence would be over the course of all of this communicating time, there's probably 5,000 messages with insulin in them. These are close in time and proximate to that date. Sure thing, I think the evidence is going to show that Megan would have preferred not to have anyone know she was present when her friend passed. But does the evidence prove she did something? You can't do something to help someone in a suicide. And no one hears. We all know you can't kill them. In her interviews, she doesn't tell the story. She explains what she did. She's not asked much. I think they're going to play the interviews. She doesn't tell what happened. And they use a good commenter. Casey was committing suicide. And she deletes these texts. Can't do that. For worst reason is it makes you look pretty bad. Police say that. As they're finding out about the deletions of texts and stuff, the police are telling her, doesn't look good for you. The text does not look good for you. Being there with these texts to talk about insulin on an insulin overdose does not look good for you. But in one interview, Richard Hales, now Special Agent Hales, I'm going to work hard to get it right. My understanding is it's new, the Special Agent title, and so I've been referring to him, and anyone deserves their title. Detective, Special Agent Rich Hales. He explains what the principles we're applying in this court mean. Dead on. Does not look good for you. So we're doing other things. DNA, forensics, medical. You're saying you didn't do anything. When he asked her the blunt question, did you do something? Did you do something in that room in relation to Casey's overdose on insulin? You said, no, that's great, but if there's evidence to prove otherwise, we have a problem. Meaning, make it. Fair enough? He says, yep. And if there's not, I will ride off into the sunset. There wasn't. All the efforts that were made with DNA, with serology, with toxicology, with medicine, with FBI labs, everything that was tried, unfortunately, some very poor police work compromised the ability to get, in some cases that we can rely on, failed to prove in a court of law. Failed to be evidence and proof that Megan did something in that room. The reason information bias. Information bias occurs when an officer believes he's in support of to change the belief. It's normal. We all have confirmation bias. But in police work, we can all imagine and agree, we need to pay attention to the evidence of how it could have affected the proof beyond reasonable doubt. Whether it makes Megan look guilty, if you think at the end of the trial, of course, it's a real possibility, otherwise that's an instruction. So what was the evidence? In the room, the paramedics come. Yes, Megan and her family are told.
Okay, look, so he's saying a lot. I'm not sure what evidence they gonna bring to prove this, but he telling us how they gonna prove that Casey Terry was planting the bean, right? She was stealing money, you know. But I just have to see how they're going to play this out. This is going to be interesting for the defense.
And they do. They leave. Although Megan's mother, who also believed in the DNR that Casey said she had, and that Casey's desire not to be resuscitated and to go to where she wanted to go, was pretty mad. She was pretty hot. She said, Megan is her best friend. You're doing the wrong thing by calling the paramedics. And then they're ushered out, told to get out. Mark calls them, the paramedics come. They do what they need to do. It's always tough on a scene, when we call it a crime scene. That's the state series that it's a crime scene. Because they need to do what they need to do, and sometimes it affects, obviously, the integrity of the crime scene. They leave, and here's what is ultimately in that room. Syringes. 2 syringes are found. There's some of the plunger type that you could use, 2 syringes at least. Turns out there's 3. I'll get to that in a minute. There are insulin syringes. In other words, the means for Casey Terry to utilize them to inject insulin into her body. And like I said, the evidence is that that's not surprising since they're all over the house and available to her at any time. They send these syringes. Let me be clear about 2 syringes, because I just misspoke. There's a syringe that is found over by where Casey Terry is. I think the evidence exhibit is going to be 2, or not exhibit for you, but police item number. The one found in the room. The evidence is Mark, ultimately, about 3 or 4 days later, is out cleaning up some things outside in the patio area where Casey would go meet friends, smoke cigarettes and such, and had a garbage can for this Fanta box up in the upper left-hand corner. That Fanta box, he was going to crush to throw away. That's, by the way, Fanta is what Casey drank. Fanta orange. There's Fanta orange cans in the room. You'll see the evidence, you'll see the body camera. And as he manipulated the box before he crushed it, he could tell something was in it. So he pulled it out, and it was a black rag. You can see it in the right part of that picture. And a syringe, a box that no log insulin could be in, and a piece of paper that would come from the box. In other words, evidence. So he called Detective Farney. Detective Farney said, "Oh, take some pictures of it. I'll pick it up later." But in that, there's a syringe. So we have 1 syringe from the room at that point. We have another syringe. And then when Detective Farney came over to pick up the Fanta box evidence, Mark told her, "Hey, I had to rip out the carpet and strip down the room." The reason is because the day after this happened, believe it or not, a massive hailstorm occurred and it flooded Casey's room. But when Mark says, "Oh, while I was doing that," this is the 19th now, when they come to pick up the evidence. "When I was doing that, I found another syringe in the room." Here it is. That's the one on the far right, still in the evidence bag. Those 3 syringes were available, in other words, within days. And the police sent them to the crime lab to get tested for the sort of evidence that Charles was talking about. DNA, fingerprints, and such. Didn't turn out to be good candidates for getting fingerprints. And DNA-wise, they found some DNA. I think you'll hear that with regard to one of the syringes, the DNA wasn't capable of being compared to Megan, Mark, Casey. Those standards were used. Those are the people, the DNA of the crime plan. With the other syringe, it was possible to get enough DNA to find out the following. Mark's DNA was on it. Casey's DNA was on it. Megan is excluded from any DNA on it. By the way, as you're going to hear, they arrested Megan in March of 25, March 20th. The results that I just described you hadn't even come back yet. There's no DNA from Megan, no fingerprints from Megan. And one of the other things you're going to learn is that it turns out that Farney, Detective Farney, and Special Agent Hales never collected the Fanta box or the rag. I think the evidence will be that there's probably not a better item to get DNA off of than a rag, and not a better item to get fingerprints off of than a smooth surface of a Fanta box. Mark hadn't put those in the bag. Detective Farney said, "Toss the stuff in the bag and I'll come get it." Although, incredibly, when they went over to pick up the bag, Mark showed him he still had the Fanta box in the rag. They just let him toss it back in the trash. You know, so that's the state of that evidence. We have syringes now with Mark saying he found one when he ripped up the carpet the next day. 2 in the room, 1 a Fanta box, a vial with some missing that Mark will testify to be enough to kill a non-diabetic, in his opinion. Let's talk about the glucometer.
1 second. That's why I like downloading them. It's loading, y'all. Give it 1 second. Man, it's good right here. Yeah.
A vial with some missing that Mark will testify to be enough to kill a non-diabetic, in his opinion. Let's talk about the glucometer. Thank goodness. Now, granted, you're going to hear that Megan didn't tell him what happened to him that day. Didn't tell him about a glucometer, about an insulin overdose, about Casey's plan. This glucometer was used, and it was used by Megan. That'll be the evidence, because right around 43, which was at 1:43 p.m., a reading of 43, you're close to it, not unconscious. It's not clear. Definitely at 30, that's 2 o'clock p.m. This shows that Casey would have been unconscious, and it shows that she would have never regained consciousness. So it gives a timeline. My understanding is, with all these experts and all of this medical testimony, and taking this evidence for what it's worth, there is no medical way to find that after Casey's blood sugar was 43, more insulin went into her. Listen, the evidence you're going to hear from any expert that comes to that end is going to be, I touched my computer, it's going to be that whatever time insulin went into Casey Terry, she would have been able to do it herself. In fact, the timing of that could have been before Megan even got there. That's the best of medicine, and the experts can tell us. So the glucometer, thank goodness, gives us a timeline that demonstrates that exogenous insulin could have been administered by Casey Terry to herself. And no evidence shows that anything would have been injected after she couldn't do it to herself. I showed you some other syringes. A couple months later, it sounds like Mark actually also found more syringes in his brother Kyle's room, which is right down the hall, the next bedroom from Casey's. One of them at least was preloaded. Kyle was a diabetic, would preload syringes and put them next to his bedside stand or something. By the way, this room's never searched by police. Mark happens, he was going to move in there, and Mark happens to find those empty syringes and one that was preloaded in the room right there next to where Casey's room was. And he saves them to his credit. Apparently not really connecting the dots on their evidentiary value right when he found them. He sticks them in the fridge. And as recently as December of last year, 3 months ago, they come to light. And the police now have 4 syringes. Four more syringes, one loaded, presumably with insulin. He sent those to the lab for fingerprints only, and surprisingly, they don't come back with fingerprints. So the point is that the scene, the evidence, the forensics of this case will show you that they're absolutely consistent with Casey Terry doing whatever caused her death to herself, and let alone a real possibility. They're absolutely consistent. But the police don't follow the evidence. The prosecution, who's involved in this case from the start, you'll hear, and whose own investigator is doing the work, despite this evidence, despite not even having medical records, despite the medical examiner's report you're going to hear. The medical examiner is going to say, then and now, this manner of death is undetermined. Their expert medical examiner, based on what I have heard so far, is all I can tell you what I expect, is going to agree. The manner of death is undetermined, and it's not because we don't know that it's insulin. It's because we don't know whether Casey did it to herself. But this case is going forward anyway. The police went and arrested Megan before most of these results were in, before medical records were back. That confirmation bias will drive all the way into this courtroom. I ask you to pay attention to that notion, pay attention to the responsibilities by these principles in relation to that. everybody, how they got fooled by Casey Terry in so many ways. Made it after that relationship. Learning. The evidence, regardless of all this cherry texting we're hearing about, absolutely will not prove, according to the principles that apply here, committed some murder or even some separate suicide. And a best friend who watched her friend die, but got charged with murder.
Now, this is going to be interesting, and we're going to keep up with this fatal trial. I want to salute to everybody, man. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. I see y'all soon, and we're going to be on this trial early, a little later on.
TRUF. Truth.
He's the mirage in the rear view glass.
It's Ray from Dallas.
Let slip past. Was he here? Was he there? Was he ever mine?
Ray from Dallas?
Just a trick played by time.
This dude is savage as fuck.
Or just a dream.
What up, Ray from Dallas?
Beam. Ray from Dallas. Tell me true.
He's fun.
Hi, Ray.
This appears to be a black man.
Ray from Dallas.
Let's take this walk.
Is he real or just a dream? Falling stars or a laser beam. Ray from Dallas, tell me true. Are you the myth or the man I knew?
This dude is
savage as fuck.